I'm good. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for giving up a precious Saturday during the summer. I appreciate it so that we can get the work done. As many members of our community may know, we usually try to do a retreat, but there are some items that we actually do need to take care of over the summer, which include like board goals, our board committees, and those things are not retreat items. So we are having a special meeting to take care of some of those things, and including Dr. Chase is going to provide an abbreviated version of her reopening plan for those board members that were not able to participate in the reopening committee meetings that Dr. Chase has been leading, and which was very inclusive of parents, staff, administrators, all sorts of stakeholders. So that's what we're also going to do, and some other items. So this is not a retreat. This is actually a special meeting because retreat means we are just working on interpersonal relationships, things like that. And that right now, it's not our focus. We have a lot of business to attend to. So our first up on the list, I know I asked everybody to please do some homework in advance so that we can make sure that we are being very efficient. We can get through our agenda more effectively. So I asked board members to please do two things. Take a look at, well, one of a few things. Board goals in advance, and also the committees. Dr. Chase also did send recommendations in regards to board goals, as traditionally the board goals are also the district goals, which is also the superintendent goals. They're all goals, all of our goals. So they did share their thoughts. I believe I saw, David, you sent some thoughts in. Tracy and I did send some in. I think Tracy sort of like copied it or added it to your thoughts, David. So I didn't get to see how she did it, but it should be added to what you sent. And I believe Tanya also did have some as well. So we're going to try to go through those items. If we could just, again, be to the point so we can come to a decision and then move forward. These two topics, we are starting 9 minutes late, but I'm still trying to hold us to ending this at 11 or earlier. So if you guys, let me see, I'm trying to go back. I'm trying to use multiple devices so I can see everything at the same time. If you could go, if you would like, you can look into our board email. Again, that is where David sent his. I believe Tracy responded to David's there.
Hey.
And I'm sorry, Terry, were you saying something?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't put myself on mute. Sorry about that.
All right, no problem. Let me see. I thought I said something here. So if everybody can, if you can, take a look at that. But as far as, I cannot find it now. Let me search for David's name, because I know I saw it there. But for now, Tanya, because I don't believe I had the opportunity to see yours, would you like to share any, or would anybody like to share any thoughts on the board goals?
Dr. Chase has her hand up.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Chase.
Just for clarification, because you mentioned that there were several other board members who submitted recommendations. I know I didn't see them, but just so that we can keep everything concise, did we put them in board docs? Google Docs, that everyone can see everyone's edits, so that it can be concise, and perhaps maybe we can share it so that if anyone's looking, they can actually see what's compiled.
So no one
Tracy
put
and I
it
did
in
not
board.
put it in Google Docs. We
Well, I saw
have
you.
an email
Right.
itself.
Right.
But
I saw
Dr.
yours,
Chase,
Mr. Warner.
I'm going
But I haven't
to
seen
email
Tanya's
it.
stuff, and I'd like to
Right.
see
I have
it.
it. Right. Right.
I'm going to email it right now, Dr. Chase. I think it's in the email chain, so you should see David's. Tracy responded, and I actually asked her just to add mine within what she responded. So Tracy's in there. So let me.
Well, I only have Mr. Warner, Tracy Mayers.
Oh, you have those.
I only have those two.
Okay. So all right, but so do you want me to? I'm gonna send it to Dr. Reynolds and Mary as well.
Yeah, can you just send it to the three of us? Only because, yeah.
And where's Tanya's stuff?
So I think Antoinette made a mistake. I did not contribute in writing to the goals. I'm more about the committee structure. So.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you, Tanya. Yes, committees. All right. Dr. Reynolds and Mary.
I mean, I read through both the superintendent's and David's and Tracy's, and I think with all three together, they sounded pretty complete to me. So.
Okay. All right. So, Dr. Chase, I just emailed it to you, Dr. Reynolds, and Mary as well. And then it seems all the rest of the board was on there. Tracy and I guess they are in that pink or burgundy, I think, color.
Let's say red.
Okay.
But Antoinette, I did.
I need new glasses. Red, the red color. All right. So, David, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It looked like you worked off of
The baseline from last year, and then I replaced a bunch of stuff. I COVID-19'd everything.
Yes. Yep. So I thought that was pretty good. And then we, I know Tracy and I, we added some other things that felt like needed to be added.
And I largely agree with those, but we'll. You want to read? You want to read your way through it, and we can comment.
I'll read through it. So with David, for the 2021 Board of Education goals for Focus Area 1, update district facilities. And Dr. Chase, like once I finish reading anything that you feel is missing or maybe isn't appropriate at that time, just please, chime in. Maximize student safety in response to the COVID-19 public health.
Wait, I apologize. I'm so sorry. Can you just state what you just said before you started reading?
Oh, I said, Dr. Chase, if you think that, I said, please chime in if you think that there's something that may be missing or something that may not be appropriate at this time.
Okay.
Share your thoughts. Maximize student safety in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency, adapting of facilities, transportation, and supporting structures, policies, and procedures for in-person and remote instruction, accordance with New York State Department of Health requirements. Enhance facilities by fall of 2020 to allow a minimum of part-time in-person instruction for all students while conforming to NYSDOH social distancing requirements for the duration of the COVID-19 public health emergency. Develop a plan by June 2021 for enhancing facilities to allow all students to participate in full-time in-person instruction while conforming to New York State Department of Health social distancing requirements for the duration of the COVID-19 public health emergency.
So the idea of those last two is for the fall, you do what you can, but you're going to have everybody be at least part-time, and then by next year, if this thing goes and goes and goes, if you have enough time and enough money, you try and find a way to get everybody to be in person.
Yeah.
So you got two different things. Do one by the, this fall, obviously the school opening as soon as we can do that. The other one by June. What do people think of that?
Wait, I didn't read one last one, David. I don't think
Yeah,
so.
keep going.
Okay, let me read the last one. Enhance district-wide technological infrastructure, curriculum resources, and technical training to support in-person and synchronous and asynchronous remote instruction for all students for the duration of the COVID-19 public health emergency. I liked it. Dr. Chase, I know you have been to all of those meetings, so I don't know if something needs to be weaved in there, or we may have just not calculated, something. But I thought focus area 1 with David added was pretty good.
Right. The only concern I have, and I'm going to also ask both Mary O'Neill and Dr. Corey Reynolds to chime in also, if that's okay. But I'm looking at the area number 2, where at minimum a part-time in-person instruction, that may not be up to us.
Okay.
So I'm afraid to put that in as a goal, only because that may not be our decision.
Okay.
Right. So obviously coronavirus is controlling all of this.
But you're only enhancing the facility, not implementing it, but the facility's got to be there depending on what happens.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if we can keep that same tone,
but take out part-time. At the end of the day, I think, David,
are you at the minimum of part-time in person? No, I know where he's going, and I think he's spot on. I'm just trying to not pigeonhole us into something that may not happen, because what if the governor announces that it's going to be full remote, right?
Then the facilities are there.
Yeah, the facilities are there.
Right. So all it says is enhance the facility.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we change the verbiage to simply say to support a part-time in-person instruction if we are allowed to do so, or something along those lines?
That's where I'm going. And I'm just wondering if it could be
allowed,
or to support the possibility of part-time.
Right, the possibility.
Okay. All right.
Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry, my camera for some reason is not working.
Oriented, they're achievable, obviously, and again, just for clarification, I am in no way suggesting that we ignore or not start to accommodate, for different scenarios. But making the goal so granular would we do these goals and we update them. You don't want to go too granular. That's all I'm saying. Okay, thank you.
All right. I think to me, we're talking about a yearly goal, and I'm comfortable with where we are. Does anybody else believe that we should probably not include COVID language and make it more broad instead? All right. Can we move on to focus area 2?
Excuse me, Madam President.
Dr. Chase, I'm sorry.
If there were some other goals that came from administration before you moved to focus technology.
I saw it, but did you send it on board docs or
both?
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can
on
get
board docs.
Yeah, it should be on board docs. And
district-wide ventilation issues as per BCS.
No, that's not it.
No, it's called board goals, and there were some questions about the way that we're actually about the actual implementation of an integration of technology.
Tanya, where are you looking? The email?
I'm looking on board docs. It's in the last packet, 724 packet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no, that's 2019.
Enhance district-wide technology infrastructure to ensure access to high-quality instructional materials, empowering teaching and learning, and promoting a deeper understanding of academic content while developing a culture of data informing instructional decisions as outlined in our NYSED approved GCSD technology plan.
So
that one?
Yes.
I'm sorry. If you, I can actually show, I can show it on the screen if you want.
That's great. That's a good idea.
If you give me the host just for a minute, I promise to give it back to you. but I could actually show everyone on the screen.
All right. I think I thought I pulled it up, but I could be. Is that it? Okay.
Okay, so let me just find it for you guys. Oh, wow.
I think I put it up.
So this is you?
Yes, I did it.
Okay.
Yay!
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Not a
Dr. Chase.
document that we can all see.
It's up.
Everyone should be able to see
My
it.
question.
Everyone but Cora.
Okay.
Oh,
My
yeah.
question is, it's not a document that we can all see. It's a Google Doc. Is it something that's shared with us all? Or is it only something that Antoinette has that we'll need to find?
No,
So
it's
it's-
with everyone, but if you look on the screen right now, it's up.
No, I see her question. It was shared with the board president, and then it was sent to all the board members via board
Docs.
docs. What
Board
I
docs.
can do is give everyone access now so that you all can go in and look at it, and perhaps maybe we can use this document to marry the other goals, and now it's all in one document.
Thank you. That's what I'm trying to. Okay, thank you.
Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
I would have to go in. Okay, so you can do what you do. I'm gonna go in and
Because I think while you're doing it, I think you will be able to see you changing stuff, Dr. Chase.
also, okay, hold on a second. All right, no problem. All right, so let's see. This is your screen, right?
Elijah, why are you yelling?
Who's yelling?
I'm on a meeting, dude.
So, can you hear me? I can't see myself anymore now.
We can hear you, Tanya.
Oh, okay. So I actually had a question for Dr. Chase and Dr. Reynolds regarding this statement about technology. I'm not following. I hope that they are any kind of recent advances or I don't even know what to call them. Programs, teaching tools that can be applied online that we could implement over the coming year, because I am assuming that we will be at least partly and maybe even fully remote. So I mean, this is a great statement, but I just actually like to know exactly what we're talking about. Are we talking about the availability? Are there new tools being developed, and are they available that we could actually seek to implement over the coming year?
Dr. Reynolds?
Sure. Good morning again. Trustee Drudgett, yes, you're absolutely right. There are tools that are continuously being prepared, being shared with us. We constantly have vendors. And I will tell you that on a daily basis, one new technology platform looks better than the last one. So we do have to keep, my recommendation is that we keep this document fluid to allow for any changes within our instructional program as necessary, because we still have to discuss it with the teachers union as well as with the specific departments. We may not be married to a specific platform district-wide because it may not be applicable to our pre-K through 2 students, or vice versa. Something along the lines of, say, Seesaw may not be applicable to our secondary students. So we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves by naming them specifically into the goals. If that answers the question that I think you were asking.
Yes, it does. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
I'm sharing the document now with everyone.
All right.
I'm actually sharing it from my phone because I can't do it from my computer for some strange reason.
Now, Dr. Chase, if I make you the host, will you be able to go in and share it that way as well and make the changes that way too?
Well, for some reason I tried to and I couldn't. So that's why I'm doing it through my phone. I'm just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm missing a board member. The problem is when we do this, we're going to have to read it out loud because Miss Carrie can't see it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm missing a board member. Okay. All right. So you guys should see this any second. Come on, Verizon. Please let me know if you received it. Somebody's in it, so
Yes.
you got it?
Yeah.
All right. So then let me, no, I can't share. Because it'll be a lot easier if we are, let's see.
So you want me to go to Google Drive and look at it?
So if you go
Sharing it with me?
yeah, so I invited you. I invited you to the Google Doc, and we all can go in and we can edit, we can look at it together.
Can I just suggest that we all do not edit? Maybe we can have
So maybe I should change everyone's status to just viewer?
to just viewers, and maybe
Yeah, because otherwise,
one person can edit, otherwise
Yeah,
it's going to
free
turn
for all
into an
to get
editing
nasty,
war.
All right, so Dr. Chase, I have a question. So I see the, what Carlos has, or what they have added for facilities and technology.
Yeah.
We're talking about just adding that top piece, right? Am I correct?
So we want to keep what Mr. Warner gave us. I think we're just going to enhance it and just kind of twist where it says DOH guidelines. I'm not looking at it, but I'm just speaking off the top of my head. We're going to add social distancing and health and safety protocols and the rest of that verbiage. And I think we talked about whatever Ashley Panetta said. So what we are recommending as an administrative group is that we're recommending that we also address district-wide ventilation issues as per the BCS. And we're hoping that we'll have more conversation with you guys about that. You received in your Friday packet a memo that details conversations and discussions we've had with BBS about the ventilation. The Department of Health has guidelines, very strict guidelines in terms of ventilation for our buildings if we are to open our buildings for in-person instruction, whether it's part-time or full-time. And so there are some concerns in that area. And so because there are concerns, we know that eventually we will open up the schools, and we just want to be ready. Even if we open it up to our staff, we want to make sure our staff are healthy as well. So I think this is a viable goal because there are some needs that need to be addressed.
All right, so yes.
For BCS, okay.
All right, so the top one addressed the district-wide ventilation issues. So that part is added in with what we've already worked for Focus 1. Okay, so let's look at, I gotta go back and forth to Focus Area 2, expand stakeholder engagement. So for that one, David, you have enlist community and school stakeholder support for our plans to address the COVID-19 public health emergency as demonstrated by participation in in-person or online meetings, community response to thought exchange, and assistance rendered assistance rendered by individuals and community organizations, increased Town of Greenberg officials, civic association leaders and members, outreach is measured by attendance and involvement in in-person or online meetings, enhance social media content to communicate effectively and efficiently with district stakeholders. Additional items, increase outreach to all areas of GCSD community as a whole, increase engagement with clergy of all denominations. That came up, Dr. Chase, because when you had, clergy there, it just made, in my mind, made me think like, wow, there's probably other people of other denominations too within our community. So that's what made me think just to increase that.
They were invited and they promised to come to the August 10th meeting.
All right, good.
Yeah, so that's a good goal to have.
Yeah, and meet with local parent groups throughout the district. Again, just wanting to help and get broader parts or pockets of our school district, re-engage with the district PTAs. I don't know if re-engage is it, but I think we're
Maybe
just
just
trying
engage.
to run it, and be more and and try to ensure if we can, at least on our end, ensure that it's we're engaging and including more people, because it tends to have I know the council sort of represents, but we do have individual units as well. We would like to see a larger impact there, and provide an event to help groups organize themselves. So my thought was there is, I think that we have great community members that they know how to organize, they pull it together. And I think that there could be other that just don't. And I don't know if that's something that we could probably tackle, just thinking about how do we help grassroots organization within our community kind of gather and become a little bit organized.
I think Tanya and Tracy have their hands up. I mean, Tanya, Terry.
Tracy,
So I was
And
gonna
Terry.
say that, huh? Did you say Terry or Tracy?
I said Tanya, Tracy, Terry,
Oh, okay, sorry, Tanya.
the 3 T's.
All right, so I'm all for increasing community outreach and engagement. I don't like the mention of school document, so I would like to just suggest that we put that as community leadership and civic associations.
You say you don't like school
I'm
documents?
sorry, what's school document?
Document.
I said I don't like the mention of clergy.
Oh,
I think that it would be more appropriate in a public school document to just put in something like community leadership. And that could, of course, include them, but I just think it would be more appropriate to keep it to community leadership.
you want to say community leadership?
Yeah,
All right.
and civic associations, if you want to add that.
No, yeah.
Okay,
If you're gonna go generic, you go generic for everything. Yeah.
okay.
Community leadership. Okay. Tracy.
I wanted to explain, so Antoinette was right, we both put both of our suggestions in here. I'm the one that put in re-engage with the district PTAs. That meant the council and all of the units, because every unit doesn't work collaboratively with their principal, and the council used to do a lot more, I think, with the district, and just over time there's not as many activities. So I think definitely over the next year, maybe utilizing the PTAs, and I know we talked about this in our breakout meetings for reopening, utilize the PTAs to really kind of grab some of the parents and community to get involved with the education of our students. So that's why I put re-engage, but we can leave it as engage, doesn't matter.
You want to say engage with both district PTA council and individual units?
Yeah, I mean, district PTAs to me means all of them, but sure, however you want to specify is fine.
All right. Ashley, you're still writing these things, right?
Oh, you wanted me to write all of them?
Yes, Ashley, you started it. Yes.
Listen, I type faster than I write.
Okay. Terry?
So yeah, a couple of things. This last one, provide an event to help groups organize themselves. Frankly and succinctly, that's beyond the purview of the superintendent of schools. It's a challenging enough job to organize his or her own principles and all of the other elements of running a district. I don't think we should increase the superintendent's bandwidth by helping other organizations organize themselves. Certainly we should have an event, some type of event in which, different groups are invited, but, to go beyond help other people organize themselves is beyond the pale. Also, just jumping back to the re-engage with district PTAs, certainly engagement with PTAs is very important, but there was some telling language in what Ms. Mayer said. PTAs are supposed to work with the principals of those buildings in that organization. as Ms. Mayer said, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'm just going on what she said, all PTAs in our district don't work collaboratively with their principals. Well, that's an issue again for the principals to sort out. Certainly, I agree that the superintendent should be, certainly supportive of principals, but that relationship, supportive of PTAs, but the PTA relationship is primarily a relationship between the principal and the school, and then the superintendent and her relationship with the principals can manage and enhance that relationship. But I don't agree with the superintendent necessarily superimposing in that relationship. That relationship has to be driven by the principal and the parents, and then by the principal and the superintendent.
Antoinette, these are the board's goals?
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
Okay.
So, Carrie, this is not just the superintendent's goals. This is the board's goals that we're talking about. And if I take my board president hat off for a second and put my vice president of New York State PTA hat on, PTAs advocate and advise all PTAs, whether they're a unit or a council or a region, to have an active relationship with the school district as a whole. So we do promote our units, our councils, and our regions to actively engage with the school district as a whole. As far as the event part, again, I'm not necessarily married to it. The thought behind was, as a board and as a school district, we have a lot of different stakeholders in there, and not everyone knows how to organize. I thought it would be helpful to have an event of some sort that really just provided our community with education and support if they would like to, be a more established, group. We do have some within our districts that does a very good job of it, but we may have some people who may want to, but just don't, really know how to.
So if I may just follow up, thank you for correcting my terminology there. So, but wherever I use the word superintendent, you can pretty much substitute Board of Education. And again, I'm all for us having an event to help foster communication with the PTAs. But suffice to say, I think we have enough on our plate such that helping them organize is very difficult. And I know obviously you have much more experience with PTAs than I do, but the PTA is the PTA, and it's it's a little problematic for us to. I want to make sure we don't cross that line when we offer our assistance to help them organize themselves. That line might start to shift.
They're two different things. I'm not referring to the PTAs. When I talk about organizing, helping them group organize, I'm not talking about the PTAs. They are already organized.
Okay, so
they're two different things, Terry. I'm sorry.
Okay. So all right, so well, that's even more to the point. Whatever groups there are out there, I don't necessarily see it as the board's role to help them organize themselves.
Okay.
We have enough on our plate.
All right, thank you, Tracy. And then I just need to give from anybody else. I'm not, like I said, I'm not married to it. I thought it would be something that was.
I'm sorry, did you call on me or no?
Yeah, Tracy, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I'm listening to what you were saying about the group providing an event, and I'm wondering if that can be combined with increased outreach to all areas of GCSD communities as a whole.
Yeah.
And I guess it's not really, we are helping groups organize themselves, but maybe encourage all areas and all, groups within the community to attend things, be involved. We don't really, and maybe it's just my point of view, when we talk about enlisting people to support our plans, we want to do that, but we also want to hear from people, I want to hear from people whether they support our plans or not. I want to hear from our stakeholders. And because if they don't support our plans, I kind of need to know why, if there's something in the plan that we're missing, or, you know, what other piece there is. So I'm wondering if there's a way we can combine that by increasing outreach to all areas of GCSD while hosting an event to encourage participation. I don't know.
I think like I said, Terry.
So host events to increase outreach.
But we do that. Those are our board meetings. I mean, I have to say, I kind of agree with Terry that we don't want to now organize yet another event for these groups. I mean, they know what we're doing when we're doing it. We post it. So the important thing, I think, is really the outreach part, to kind of prod them into participating in those events that we already have.
Great. I'm not tied to it. I do agree in regards to how we edited the other one as far as just increasing our outreach to all stakeholders as a whole. So I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Dr. Chase.
Yes.
Did you guys have something? I gotta go back.
Yes. If you look in the board docs, we've listed.
Okay.
We've listed a few things, and some of this that's here I'm looking at in the email can be combined, because we don't want to have so many different objectives. We don't know what the 2020-21 school year is going to look like, because a lot of this work may have to be done remotely. And so we want to be able to have goals that we believe we can achieve and attain if in fact that it is going to be a remote COVID year. I have a feeling that we're 2 years in the hole in terms of coming out of COVID as it relates to the school district, any school district.
I agree.
Yeah, this is not a, this is going to be an interesting year. So I just want us to be very strategic as to how we identify goals, because I want it to be goals that we can truly attain if in fact that we're all virtual.
And if I may, I'll read what the cabinet has recommended for Trustee Carey, if you don't mind.
Perfect.
So focus area 2, expand stakeholder engagement, increase outreach with community leadership. Stakeholders from diverse backgrounds participate on school reopening planning teams, as well as pandemic teams. Increase the use of thought exchange to solicit feedback, thoughts, gather data, and concerns from parents, students, employees, and community stakeholders. Enhance social media platforms to communicate effectively and efficiently with stakeholders. Engage community stakeholders and parents through the use of virtual town hall meetings and increased use of television stations to reach a broader range of stakeholders.
So when we wrote that with the idea that, we're not going to be able to probably have face-to-face meetings with people as we traditionally have done, and that's just our new reality. So just using other means of communicating. And to be honest with you, what we're saying as a cabinet is pretty much what you all have identified here.
Yeah.
I think if we combine it, we can come up with maybe 4 strong objectives under this particular focus area.
Yep. All right.
The same thing.
I think that the stuff that I wrote is very similar to the things that you have written there.
Yes.
So I'm good with using yours instead.
Yeah,
It is
we're
nice. Yeah.
on the same page.
Well, I think that because it's a shared goal, there should be a combination of the cabinet's language with the board's language, right? Because then it becomes right. So we'll find a way to combine, if you will, your comments with ours, and maybe come up with probably 4 strong objectives that sort of mirrors both documents.
Do we want to cut and paste how are you going to combine it? Because they're on 2 separate ones in an email. I added, go ahead.
I said it's copy and paste.
No, not copy and paste. No, what I'm thinking is rewrite the statement that it's inclusive of everyone's language.
Yes, that's fine.
That's what I'm thinking. Mm-hmm.
I'm good with that. I'm moving on to the 3rd one. Align and articulate the curriculum. David, ensure instruction provided during the COVID-19 health emergency emphasis core competencies based on New York State learning standards. ensure regular student attendance is monitored and maintained in person, hybrid, or full remote learning environments, ensure programs providing equitable instruction for all students, including special education and English language learners, students are maintained during COVID-19 emergency, adopt local means of measuring student achievement in literacy and numeracy during the COVID-19 health emergency, and set a baseline to measure future student improvement, provide social and emotional learning support and instruction to all students to address concerns related to COVID-19, to the COVID-19 health emergency in accordance with SED benchmarks for social and emotional learnings. And then there was incorporate culturally responsive education in the curriculum. And then, let me go back to that.
Which is important.
Yeah.
Tanya has her hand up, Antoinette.
Tanya?
Well, I think, I believe you were going to read what the superintendent and her team wrote. So I'd like you to read that first, because it's a kind of a combined question about one paragraph here and that one. So.
All right. So draft recommendation is improve student achievement, literacy and numeracy by 3% above the ELA 2019 proficiency rates, grade 3 through 8, as measured by the spring 2021 New York State English Language Arts and Math examinations. Improve the spring 2021 Francis and Pinnell student instructional performance above and on reading levels by 3% over spring 2019 kindergarten, grade 1 and grade 2 instructional levels. Improve Regents passing rates in all June 2021 Regents examinations by 3% over actual 2019 performance levels. Improve iReady K through 12 results by 3% over 2019 results. Continue to develop universal understanding of social emotional learning. Continue with the pilot programs to support the social and emotional health of students at Woodlands Middle High School and Richard R.J. Bailey Elementary School in accordance with SED benchmarks for social emotional learning.
So basically, you skip a year that there's no testing and assume that the testing is going to happen this coming spring on schedule?
That's correct. That's the assumption at this point until we hear something different from NYSED.
Okay, the other thing is, Dr. Chase, I know there was a time that there was conversation about not using iReady.
There was a time, but there was a time that there was a conversation about that, but I think under our new environment with COVID-19, we're going to have to identify a tool that will give us credible results in terms of, students' achievements, or if there's areas of concern, and iReady does that. I don't know if the Education Committee wants to elaborate more on that. That's the tool that was used in the past, and that's the tool that everyone's familiar with.
Okay, thank you. Tanya, I see your hand up.
Yeah, so now I have 3 questions. So the first is with respect to what David wrote, which is the adopt local means of measuring student achievement in literacy and numeracy during the COVID-19 health emergency and set a baseline to measure future student improvement. Does that pertain to the document that we were given about the new grading policies for the various grades that was in board docs, where basically it's going to be essentially pass fail for the little kids, and then there's going to be a kind of a grading, a regular grading system for grades 7 through 12.
I put what I put in because I noticed that this year's tests were taken out of circulation at a statewide basis. So I thought, oh my God, all our measuring tools are gone. So we better do something locally. There had been some suggestions that, oh gosh, those tests that we use to identify the out kids, could we use that because it's short and easy to do ourselves for everybody? So could we have a set of local tools to measure everything? That's what I thought was going to happen. But what I'm hearing from the administration is, no, enough of the state tools will still be there, or we will make that assumption at this point to go forward with that. So I would actually cut out that entire paragraph that I have there and replace it with what the administration has done.
Okay, so then just to go back to the iReady comment. So I know that we actually spent quite a bit of last year talking about replacing iReady with STAR, and that there were several presentations about this. So again, I would actually like to hear from Dr. Reynolds how he feels about these various tools, which under these circumstances might be easier to administer, because it sounds like the kids might have to actually take them at home, or, you know, how is that whole thing to work, and which of these, whether it's iReady or STAR, that would be better suited for our circumstances. So I guess that's one reason that maybe I don't want to, again, pigeonhole ourselves into one or the other, but maybe just say something like that we will implement the best tools for the current circumstances in terms of measuring student achievement. And then my last question was, which Dr. Reynolds partially answered, is that we seem to still be on track for all of the for the regions, but what about the SATs, the AP exams, the ACT, all of the other testing that generally goes on during the school year? What is happening with that?
Sure. Thank you very much, Trustee Dragic. So to answer your second question, I couldn't agree with you more. I think I don't want to use the word vague, but the more open we leave our opportunities for assessing students locally in our goals, the better. I can't really assess which will be more beneficial, not beneficial, which will be easier to implement at this point, whether it's iReady or STAR. Part of the difficulty I have is if we implement STAR, that would take additional training at this point for several of our teachers. And if the state decides that we are not going to be fully open, the professional development, we want to reserve it for anything that is instructionally based for instructional practice in the classroom setting, as opposed to learning a new tool or be re-educated in a tool that's going to help us with assessment. So if we are in basically a pause, which is what New York State called it, pause New York, right? We want to continue the programming that we are familiar with, and then wait for implementation to take place once we're back full time. So I wanted to leave that opportunity for some movement in that sense. So I do agree with you. Maybe we can even take out the words iReady and put in our local assessment so that it covers us. But to answer your third question, SAT and those entities are not dictated by NYSED. We had to wait for NYSED to decide that the state assessments, including the regions, were going to be discontinued this past year. And then the School Boards Association went into suspension as well. So we can't make that prediction yet. We don't know what's going to happen until the governor lays out his plan and until NYSED agrees with it. We are anticipating now, because we are preparing our plans to return to school, we are making the assumption that the assessments will be in place, but that can all change in a day's notice.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. All right. So David, I just have one question. Which paragraph of yours did you said you wanted to remove?
The one that begins with the words adopt local means.
Adopt local. Okay. All right. Thank you, David. All right. Next one.
Antoinette, I think Terry had a question right after Tanya.
Right,
and I think we are on our agenda. We're supposed to move on to.
Yes.
Okay.
So just for clarification, so the information that Dr. Chase provided us on the Google Doc, where is that going in? Where is that going in on focus area 3?
Where we cut out adopt local means, take the entire recommendation from Dr. Chase and plant it right there.
Okay, great. Second point, Anthony, that I want to ask about. So this incorporate culturally responsive education in the curriculum.
Hmm?
So certainly I agree with that. But number one, curriculum is by and large dictated by the state, number one. And then number two, and probably more importantly, I know we have some flexibility in terms of like electives and other things like that. But I do have a question / concern about who's going to determine or what culturally responsive curriculum are we going to be using. I say all of that to say is perhaps we should say investigate methods for incorporating culturally responsive education in the curriculum with the intent of making a recommendation for the following school year, because obviously we're not going to be, I don't think we'll be able to get it in for this school year. And again, I think we want to have a robust discussion and investigation of this, and also so as to make this achievable, let's set a goal within a goal to have a report back to the board, or at least we have the administration report back to us on how to implement this.
So, Dr. Chase, if I'm correct, I believe this past school year, it might even been last year, Dr. Valenti at the time had already started culturally responsive education and training within the school district. I can't remember the last set of people that he said did receive some initial training. I can't remember, but I know he kind of went through the different layers in throughout the district. So it's not brand new to the district. I think what we're just saying, or at least what I want to say, we're still committed to continuing that training. I know the board did not get it. And I think, Dr. Chase, you had expressed that you wanted us to participate in that as well. So to me, this is a continuation of the work that has already been started. And then now, once everyone is trained, that we would be talking about infusing it into our curriculum. Culturally responsive education is just being inclusive when we are having our lessons and teaching, that we are making sure that our that the students that we're teaching, that their cultures incorporated in the education.
No, well, you're right. We started the work. The work definitely needs to continue. It is important work. It's not a drive-by or anything of that effect. And you're right. That, I would like to see the board also receive training so that, there's a common language amongst the district in terms of how do we incorporate culturally responsive education. Even at the high school now, their English department is currently looking at book titles, and looking at authors to ensure that children see representations of themselves. So it's work that's already happening, but it needs to happen on a much larger scale and with a lot more aggressiveness in terms of making sure that children see representations of themselves, make sure that teachers are having those courageous conversations with students, and it's not looked upon as anything other than, we are sensitive to the needs of children from diverse backgrounds. So, having that as the goal, I think that perhaps we can word it a little bit differently, instead of incorporate, because it's something that we've already started. If we go back, Dr. Reynolds can go back with a committee to take a look at maybe how we can incorporate the language just a little bit different. So while I have the floor, the goals or the objectives that we've included on board docs, do we mix them with this? Are we going to say yes to all of this? Or, what's going to be the outcome under this focus area?
Can I make a suggestion? Can I suggest what I was saying before with the cut and the paste, that we actually just cut and paste into this board doc that we can all see the last, email that, I was the last one that sent the email that I didn't change, that's not true, I did change one thing on David's, which was the name of focus area 4. But other than that, I just added Antoinette and I's, so if you cut and paste the email, you get David, Antoinette, and myself's suggestions. And then when everything is in there, whoever can go through and update, mix the ones that actually are saying the same things.
Yeah. Okay, so Dr. Chase, so for right now, I would say, because what do we stop at focus area 3.
Mhm.
I think for now, if we could just combine, so we can have it, like Tracy said, on one doc. We have to come back to this because we won't be able to finish this today.
Right.
So we can just combine it in one doc, and then we can come back to it and make adjustments. But at least we know some of the things that we've done so far. We still have to address focus area 4, and we didn't get to focus area 5. And so maybe Dr. Chase, like what you said, we can make.
Can we assign one person?
Yeah, can we track changes in Google Docs too?
Absolutely can. Absolutely can. But my question.
We can assign one person to merge the similar ones. I vote for Mr. Pineda, and he just put his hand up. So I don't know if you want.
Well, I already pretty much did it. I just didn't put it into the Google Doc.
Okay.
So
all right.
I can easily copy and paste that in, and then we're done with that part. And then obviously, Dr. Chase, like she said, they'll have to, when Dr. Reynolds will go back and make it right.
Okay.
Dr.
So
Chase, are you good with that?
We're good with that, Mr. Pineda. Can you just make sure we get that?
I'll put it in right now.
Thank you. And so, and then we're going to revisit areas 4 and 5 at another time.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to adopt this tonight. I mean, today.
No, today. No, but I don't know, Ashley, if you're comfortable with combining still the 2 areas we didn't get, and Dr. Chase and her team will still look at it, and okay, yeah, all right.
So just know that when we revisit this again, whenever that might be, it might be after Governor Cuomo's recommendation, well, not recommendation, his final statement about the opening of school, which can possibly change some of these objectives.
That's fine, as long as you guys, when you do it, you just show the track changes so people can follow it. That'll be good.
We're good with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
I just need you to explain to me what you all just did. It went completely over my head. Can you please explain it to me?
So Miss Carey, so pretty much, I believe David, Tracy, and we had ideas, Dr. Chase and her.
Madam President, that's not, I'm talking, but just now you talked about pasting something from the administration to what we have here, and Ashley was going to paste it or something. Are we not going to discuss 4 and 5 or what is what I'm trying to get to?
Oh, okay. For right now, what's going to happen, because our time is up on this, what Ashley is going to do, he's going to combine both documents. The one for Tracy, David, and I, along with the administration, he's going to combine them. Dr. Chase and her team, they're going to review and look through them. They're going to track changes. So we'll be able to see what they thought they should remove, what they thought they should add, and we'll review that document at a later time.
Okay, but we will not be discussing focus area 4 and focus area 5 before they do all of this.
No, but whenever they make those changes, when you track a change in a document, you're able to see what was crossed out, what was added. So we'll be.
All right, somebody's got to send me some.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Hold on, Tracy, hold on. Terry had his hand up, so hold on. Terry, sorry, Miss Carey, were you done?
I'm not finished yet. I'm trying to get something across here.
Go ahead, Miss Carey.
You need to send me hard copies. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm listening to you. You were reading to me, and I was listening, but I need to see it so that I know what you're talking about. You're talking about a focus areas that I don't even know what they are yet.
And that's why I interrupted. I was saying I agree we shouldn't make any changes. We should just cut and paste the document that the board members suggested with the document that the administration suggested, and have that be a working document. Send the hard copies to Cora so she can see all of it. And then any changes that are made afterwards, she'll have a hard document of all the suggestions and can see them at once. That's what I was going to say.
So the only thing that Ms. Carey should not have right now is the email from you, me, and David. When you do combine the documentation and Dr. Chase and her team go through it, tracking changes show it doesn't erase anything. It just shows you what they are suggesting to cut out, what they are suggesting to add in. So that would allow anyone to be able to still see the full documents that we are putting together, and you will be able to see what is being suggested to cross out or what is being suggested to add in. Nothing disappears totally. Okay.
I think Terry.
Terry.
So with regard to 4 and 5, I think we have a little bit of information that's not consistent. So on area 4 on the Google Doc, it says stabilize leadership. And we have Dr. Chase's or the administration's points for stabilizing leadership. And then for 4 on the email, it says it is called GCSD District Climate, and it lists these different points. And those are two distinct and different things. I'm not suggesting that either one is not important and relevant, but it shouldn't be under one title. So what I'm saying, instead of having 4 and 5, what we probably need to have is 4, 5, and 6. Area 4 being stabilized leadership, which was the original, I think. Number 5 is GCSD climate, which would be new information by and large. And then the previous number 5, fiscal stability, becomes number 6.
Okay. All right. So Dr. Chase, you'll get this as well. So if you could.
So are we doing violence to our structure for our 5-year plan? Because that's where those headings came from.
Right, the headings came from the strategic plan that was adopted by the board.
Yeah, the strategic plan ends when, 2021 or it's 2021?
I think so. So you could come back and we're going to have to redo that process for the next 5 years. At which point you may come up with a different number of categories or change what the categories are. But we need to do it as part of the 5-year structure, not the 1-year structure.
Got it. Thank you.
I would leave stabilized leadership for now as the title, just to be consistent. And then if you want to swap it over, you do it in the 5-year plan.
Got it. Thank you.
We can leave it as is, but those items that are there do need to be incorporated.
Yes.
Dr. Chase.
So the title is stabilized leadership, but it's under the energy, if you will, of GCSD climate.
Right.
I just want to make sure we're all speaking the same language.
Yeah. Yes, we are. Thank you. Okay. We are going to move on. If we have an opportunity to come back to committees, we will. So we're going to put that on hold for now. Dr. Chase. Review of district policies administration will provide a list of policies that may need to be adjusted to take in consideration COVID-19 effects. A list will be provided by the administration in advance. So again, that also is in the drive.
Ms. Daughter Cintron, are you able to bring up your Google Docs with the policies for everyone to view?
Okay, let me go in here. All right.
Can you just share that with us again? Or
right. So I'm going to try it again from my phone. And everyone will be
the same thing that's on Board Docs?
It's on Board Docs. It's on Google Docs. It's
in 2 places. Okay, good.
I can get out. So Wait a minute. Let me stop sharing. Let me try to get there first. All right. Close that one. Back in here. All right. Dr. Chase, what was it called again?
It probably says policy recommendations. I think.
Policy/procedure recommendations.
Correct, that's it.
Okay.
David, where did you find that?
I'm on Board Docs.
Where on Board Docs, David?
In the latest packet.
Oh, policy recommendations?
All right, let me go back
Yeah,
here.
okay.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Right there. All right, Dr. Chase.
Sitting at the regional meetings and the state level meetings, the requirement has changed. First, it was if you're within 3 feet, you must wear a mask. 6 feet, you do not. Clarification document came out saying that if you're within 6 feet, you still need to wear the mask.
Yes.
So the language keeps going back and forth. I don't know what the final language is, but what I did read and what most districts are considering is that at a district level, we can mandate how we want this to be handled. My recommendation is that we do require 6 feet distance, as well as masks, providing breaks between so that children can go outside, take the mask off, adults can go outside, take the mask off. The reason why we are asking for this is because we know even with the younger levels, it's going to be very, very challenging to maintain 6 feet when you're talking about little children who are used to being sociable. So we believe to protect everyone that we do ask that you keep your mask on at all times while you're in the building.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Chase.
Oh, Ashley's hands up.
I can't see. I'm so weird. Okay, go ahead, Ashley.
Yeah, my only concern with this one, I agree with you, Dr. Chase. I think ideally we'd have both. But realistically speaking, I know a lot of little children that don't feel comfortable holding that mask on their face for more than 5 minutes, my son included. We've tried different styles of masks, single ply, the fabric ones, and 5 minutes max, and that thing is off. So I don't know how we could practically marry both of those as a requirement. That's my only concern. But I agree with you. In principle, it should be that way. I just don't know how to actually make it happen.
No, I totally agree with you too. It's going to be very difficult. And, listen, it's difficult for us as adults to keep it on for a long period of time, especially if it's really, really warm. I actually have the facilities group looking at possible barriers as another layer of protection. So we know that in the instance that a child may not be inclined to keep it on all day, at least if we have barriers in certain areas of our classrooms, at least that allows for another layer of protection.
Okay.
And that is allowable, by the way.
All right, just a real quick point. When I'm sharing my screen, I can only see 4 squares. So you can't just raise your hand. You have to say something, because when you say something, then you pop up in my view.
Yeah.
Ms. Darden, if you go to the top of your 4 squares, you'll see a waffle.
Yeah.
Waffle.
Click that should be I think there's like 9 dots that are together.
Yeah.
That might give you additional.
I can see 6 of you now.
Yeah.
Right. You won't be able to see all of us, but you'll see most of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So still, thank you, Dr. Reynolds. Still, please just say something so it can guarantee that I actually see you. Otherwise, I can only see 6. All right. The next one, Dr. Chase, mandatory health screening and procedures for confirmed COVID-19 cases in school. It's not an existing policy. The Department of Health and NICED recommends health screenings for all occupants to building, including essential visitors. Now, Dr. Chase, I thought at one meeting you did say something to the effect of that we couldn't do mandatory temperature checks, but is this just if people are sick, or is it what's different, I guess?
So we're not going to do it at the school level. We are going to ask that people self-assess. That's both staff and students. We're looking at the app that most districts are looking at right now, where parents will put in the child's information in the app, and they'll send that out during the day. Before the child actually reaches school. So You do that at home. Parents will do the self-check. Staff will do the self-assessment as well. If we don't do that, it'll take us almost 2 hours to get all the kids in. Plus, we're running into possible HIPAA concerns with doing the temperature check, logging them in the schools. So it was recommended by BOCES, by our DS, Harold Coles, Dr. Coles, is that we consider the app. And so most districts are moving in that direction. Any person who is considered an essential visitor, we're going to limit visitors. I think there's a policy recommendation further down that speaks to it. But any essential visitor who comes into our school district will use Lobby Guard, obviously, right? But Lobby Guard now has a self-assessment portion to it that screens for COVID. And, you know, it's just a matter of just asking a bunch of questions. I mean, you'll never know if a person is asymptomatic. That is the bottom line, and that is our biggest challenge. No matter what you put on this self-assessment, you can have all normal symptoms, and you can still be asymptomatic, and you can still spread the virus.
Yeah.
Asymptomatic and have normal symptoms, that's a concern. A teacher can be asymptomatic and have those, you know, normal symptoms. We were told by BOCES to stay away from doing the assessments at the schools, and most of us are going for the app. There's an app that BOCES has us looking at in terms of the self-assessment. And in fact, most districts in the country are actually using said app to have everyone self-assess before they enter the building. It would take way too long. There are people who have concerns with the logging of temperatures.
That's what I'm asking about.
Yeah, I don't know enough about that, and I really don't. That's why I started that particular one with we'll get legal advice, because I know that there's some HIPAA concerns, and I don't want to put the district in jeopardy of that.
Can I make a suggestion here?
Yeah.
So my place of employment, they've already started trialing similar measures, obviously, because it's a big high-rise building. So their challenges are the same. What they are doing is they're doing the app model, like you're saying, Dr. Chase. They're totally asking that questionnaire with those mandatory questions and you respond.
Right.
But they also are doing temperature checks. But the way they're handling it is as you come into the building, they have, I don't know if it'll be practical for us, they have a wide angle temperature sensor that just scans everybody as they come in. But regardless of that, whether they're doing the individual or the wide, they don't record the temperature.
Right.
That's right.
What they do is if your temperature is in excess of 100 degrees,
right,
you get put to the side.
Right.
You wait about 5 minutes to cool down, just in case, you know, some of us, sometimes you're running and you get a little elevated temperature from running. Then they check you again 5 minutes later. And if you do at that point exceed the temperature, they would follow the procedure for response. Could we do something? Could we find out with legal and obviously the medical resources if we could do something like that and not log the temperature, but at least have that as some kind of mechanism?
And
Yeah,
can we
because otherwise it's not safe and
can we
people
get
won't
a
send their
cost
kids
for can we get a cost for the wide scale thing like you're talking about? How much that costs?
So I believe Mary and Mike have already looked into, I don't know if you guys have seen this thermal temperature take thingamajig when you walk into the door and it just sort of scans people and then it will single people out. Most of us school districts are looking into possibly something like that. But I will tell you, Mr. Panetta, I don't know about the traffic in your place of employment, but when I have 50 kids coming to the door at one time and you have to kind of zap them with the temperature, the contact list, it does create sort of like a little bottleneck, but probably not enough to say, let's throw that idea away. So we'll look at this and see if we can do it. And I'm hoping we can come up with something.
Hold on, Tanya. Miss Carey, I saw you on the screen for a while. Did you have something to say?
No, I'm just listening to all of the blah, blah, and trying to absorb it, that's all.
Okay, Tanya?
Well, so I just want to say that any self-assessment will not work, I think.
I agree.
Because the first thing is that thermometers read differently. The second thing is not everyone has a smartphone. The only way that you could ensure it is if you actually had a thermometer that was linked to your smartphone such that it forced you to use it every morning, but even so you could point it at yourself or at somebody. So I think it's just not going to work. So I really think that we should come up with either, a system where kind of we're zapping them as they come in, or I believe that these devices that Ashley mentioned are probably extremely expensive, but we should at least inquire about one of those. And I don't know if the state would be willing to help schools pay for something like that, but the self-assessment, I think it's a waste of time.
I definitely I see the pros and cons to that, but we do have a document that's requiring us to do some sort of health screening on a daily basis. So maybe we can try to find other ways that we can actually do a health screening. So we'll look more into that, but at the end of the day, we have to do health screening.
No, I agree with that, but I just think that this is not the way to do it. That's just my opinion.
So Dr. Droderick, being that this is your area, I'm going to ask you, what is your recommendation? What should we look into then?
I think we should either be doing it with the portable thermometers, have 2 people or maybe even 3 people at the school doors checking the kids, and then doing that procedure that, Ashley suggested, which is if someone has a temperature over 100 degrees, you set them aside, you check it again 5-10 minutes later. If they're good, they come in. If they're not, you send them back home. Or alternatively, I'm pretty sure these devices are out of our price range, but we should look into them as well.
So we already purchased, I think, almost about 100 thermometers for that very reason. So we're pretty much on track with that. I just have to see with legal what we can and cannot do. And I do like the idea of just not jotting it down, but just doing a check, but not necessarily logging it.
Yeah, you don't have to log it. I mean, every day is a new day. So.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. But at the end of the day, I need you guys to do a policy about mandating a screening, regardless of how, but we do need that. Okay, fair enough. I can't hear her.
Dr. Chase, so this policy, is the language in there about mandating screening, or we just need to add that in there?
Well, I think let's send this to legal.
Okay.
But I think the procedure for this policy is what we're talking about. I think the topic, everyone agrees that we have to have screening, but I think it's more of a procedural piece that we just need to get a little bit more information. If you look at the bottom of that, it speaks to essential visitors will need to self-assess using LobbyGuard. Is everyone okay with that? Because LobbyGuard does have a component where people will be able to self-assess, and then the monitor who's checking the person in can just basically zap them as well without jotting down or logging their. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Grading.
Question.
I'm sorry, Terry.
Yes. So, what are we considering as essential visitors here?
Sure.
Board members, essential visitors.
So if you're trying to trick me in saying board members are not essential visitors, that ain't gonna happen. You're not gonna get me to say that.
Board members are essential visitors.
No, essential visitors would be parents who are picking up sick kids. Essential visitors would be there's construction work that needs to happen. Let's say there's a power outage and you have electricians who have to come into the building. So I think that it would also be helpful as, and the state guidance does give a very small list of who are essential visitors, but I think that as we are creating the procedures for this, I think the board should be able to identify essential visitors so that people will know who can come into the building and who can't. So, if I'm just a mom and I want to drop off my kids' lunch, can I just come into the building? Or if I am, I don't know, doing a fire inspection that needs to happen, am I considered to be an essential visitor?
Yeah, I think when you said like the construction workers, I put /trades. So anyone who's coming into something or has the right to do like certifications of the elevators, those type of.
So they were identified in the state document. So you have medical providers, you have, parents who are picking up sick children, they should be able to come. But there's got to be a way to bring those parents to the door. And so one of the procedures that we put in place is that if there's a sick child, the nurse is dressed in PPE. There will be an exit designated for that child, and the parent will meet that child at that exit. But there could be a situation where the parent has to come into the building for whatever reason. I don't know. So I don't want to leave parents out totally, although we have a procedure for how sick children are going to be picked up.
So can it be, and this might be the wrong wording, but like, so sort of like an as needed basis, like it, like it's situational. It depends.
I would say situational in an emergency basis. We're trying to, one of the things that the document asked us to do was to limit the number of visitors entering the schools.
All right.
Madam President. Madam President?
Yes, Ms. Carey.
I was wondering, we have security officers at the beginning of, at the doorways as people come in. Is that not correct?
Yeah, there's someone, yes.
Okay. So anyone coming in would have to stop and speak to the security officer. And if a parent or someone came in with lunch or some non-essential situation like a jacket or something, I believe that could be left with the security officer. He could call the teacher, and the teacher could either send the child or someone down to pick up the lunch or coat or jacket or whatever it is. I don't think that's a big thing.
Right.
I think that we have to definitely look into how we can utilize the security officers that are at the front doors, so that visitors will be screened before they're let into the schools.
So that's where lobby guard comes in terms of screening them. And you're right, Ms. Carey, if in fact a parent says, Johnny left his book bag or left his jacket or what have you, or money, that parent really should call the school first. And maybe there can be someone to meet the parent in the parking lot as a parent coming into the building. We're trying to minimize visitors coming into the building, period. And that was strongly encouraged in the guidance document. And so we'll identify a way in which we can get those non-essential things in a safe way. But yeah, when essential visitors come into the building, they have to be screened using lobby guard, which has changed their name to Raptor. That's another story. But Raptor bought them out. And so, they'll be screened, they'll get zapped, it'll be logged in terms of who that person is who came in, and that person went through a health screening without identifying what their vitals are, because we want to be able to, protect their privacy. So that's pretty much what we have so far, and it's recommended in the guidance document. Is there something else that we're missing?
Just one thing, one more thing. It's those people who come in who are our providers who take care of, like plumbers and electricians and people like that. They bother me because they walk through the buildings escorted. They just, they may be working on the second floor, but they roam the building. And they may be on the bottom, the basement, the first floor. My concern is how to control those people who come in to do work in the schools. How do we control them so they stay where they're supposed to be and not wander all over the building, escorted?
So that's a really good point. And it goes beyond just the concerns with COVID, but it also goes beyond, just making sure the kids are safe with these people in the building. Whenever possible, and I believe that's in our guidance document that we're working on, whenever possible, we'll have any sort of construction work being done off hours when the kids are not there. That's number one. Number two, if it is an emergency and they have to be there during that time, and Mary just confirmed that this is accurate, we'll have a custodian escort them and stay there with them as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Mary?
That sounds like a plan.
Oh, okay.
The other thing, Dr. Chase, are they being tested too when they come in?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
they have to be tested. They have to be tested using Raptor. So they will be considered essential visitors, which you see in that box on the graphic organizer. They will be tested, and they have to be logged in as well.
One more thing, if they're coming after hours, does that mean that increases costs?
Mary?
If we have to have staff remain because they're there, yes, but during a normal school year, and I'll say normal, we have staff that work at night. If we return this year, let's say in some kind of hybrid model, we will have to have staff on site in the evening anyways to clean, so it wouldn't be anything additional.
Okay, well, not, when I was saying additional money, not necessarily for the staff, but for the
work.
vendor themselves. Like, will they, oh, I have to be here at 5, so now my rate goes up however much.
Normally, it does not, but if you start involving weekends, then it will.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Ms.
right.
Cantron, before we move on to grading, we do have the cost, that thermal thermometer shield, that device that I was telling you to just kind of walk through,
Okay.
anywhere between $7,500 to $8,000.
Oh, Lord.
I think we should get it.
Yeah, we spend much more money on other things. I think
Yeah,
that's,
I mean,
that's worth it.
I really think that we should get it.
75 to 8,000.
I thought it was going to be
Mary,
tenfold higher.
Say it again.
I thought it was going to be tenfold higher.
Mary, is that number accurate?
That is an amount that I received from one of the school nurses and one of our principals. I do not know what else may be required in order to install it. You may need additional wiring. I don't know that yet, but that's the cost of the unit itself.
Of the unit itself. Well, I think it would be a good idea to price it out. For example, we may not need that freezer for 40,000, so we could get a few of these devices instead.
Wait until before we actually commit to this, wait until we get to the portion of what this is all costing us so far for reopening. Because you might have a different tune at the end of this.
Well, I've seen that, but I think that's a separate discussion. But for this, I mean, I think since this is mandated by the state, I mean, I know some of the other things are as well, but anyway, I think we should, I think we maybe need to discuss this, purchasing these, because I don't know.
Mary, can we look into this and maybe just provide the board with more information for Friday's packet? Or if not,
we already are looking into it.
Okay.
All right, great.
Antoinette, before you move from this one, Dr. Chase, is it possible that the board can get a copy of some of the new procedures your team is working on, so we get a better understanding of what that will look like, specifically around the COVID-19 related items?
So are you talking about the full plan?
The procedures, someone showing up, like what you were mentioning earlier, someone showing up and they're getting a temperature check, they're getting, they're being escorted through the building. This type of person not coming in, those kinds of procedures.
Sure. When it's finalized, I definitely will share it with the board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Grading. And it says, yes, that this is an existing policy. If we return to a hybrid or full model, in-person model for 2021, the current BOE adopted grading policy will apply should we return to remote learning. So if it's hybrid, what exists, Dr. Chase, right now remains the same as far as our grading policy with the 18 number of days, absences, all of those things. That is the same as long as it's in-person or hybrid.
So I'm gonna push this over to Dr. Reynolds, who can speak more to this.
Okay. Thank you very much,
Dr.
Dr. Chase.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So President Darden, you're exactly right. Everything remains as is. So if we are full in person, no changes, we revert back to our original board grading policy. If we come in on a hybrid type of a schedule, then we would utilize the adopted COVID board policy. And what we will need to do is establish a baseline grading system should we come back in a hybrid or a remote model. But the way that the board so geniusly wrote the grading policy, I think that allows us to move forward in a manner that will give us a baseline data. So because the secondary level continued with their grading policy with very little variation, I think we're in a very good place. This allows us to collect, to give out the grades of progressing or passing or things of that nature for the lower level students. So my recommendation is that we readopt the virtual and hybrid grading policy to be instituted should we not come back to school full time. So rather than you reading all the way through it, it's basically the same policy that we had before.
Okay. All right. Okay, attendance. Yes, this is an existing policy. If we return to full in-person model for 2020-21, the current BOE, did I scroll? Wait a minute, stop moving. The current BOE adopted attendance policy will apply should we return to a remote learning model or a hybrid model in 2021. We will need to establish a policy to complement or enhance the adopted 2019 COVID grading policy. So
again, just for consideration, it is all dependent upon what the governor states. We may need to tweak the attendance policy that we had in place towards the end of last year. But if we should continue with a full virtual experience the way that we did last year, I believe the attendance policy that we had in place can just be readopted.
Okay, this is separate, Dr. Chase, you know this is separate of this for COVID, but I believe at one time we spoke with our lawyers that we probably should take a look at our current attendance policy as well in general.
Correct.
So let's be reminded of that. We definitely have to review that. I think we definitely need to have that looked at. So Dr. Chase, I don't know if that's if your team taking a look at that and then the board is getting it and then we're weighing into it as well.
So you are correct. It definitely needs to be reviewed as well as enhanced.
Yes.
And whether it's COVID or not,
Yeah.
It's a bit antiquated. And I'm going to say this to you as well, whether we have in-person, remote, no matter what the governor says in August, remote learning is here to stay and it's not going anywhere. And so whether it's going to be optional in the future to children, it's not going anywhere. So I think that the policy really needs to reflect future forward, and it needs to reflect the fact that, you know, remote learning will be here for a while.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Next, I have facilities use. Yes, it's existing. Suspend the use of facilities for the school year.
That's highly recommended in the state document.
Okay. Visitors / volunteers. Yes, it's the same. It's an existing policy. Suspend. We sort of talked about this a little bit early. Suspend visitor volunteers for the entire year unless essential. Essential visitors should be clearly identified in the policy. So we talked.
Are we closing the weight room?
We will have to close the weight room and keep it only open to our students.
Close fitness center.
What I mean by close to the community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to clarify here, this isn't locking us out of the ability perhaps in the future to do virtual visits, right? Like, let's say we have a volunteer that wants to read to a classroom or something. The way this is worded, are we accounting for that? I know this is high level, or are we saying no across the board?
Maybe we should add the word phrase in person.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Good
Yeah.
catch. Ashley.
Yep. So we're looking at visitors, right? I can't do it. Mary, you're in it. Mary, I see your name, Mary. So perhaps Miss O'Neill, where it says suspend in-person visitors, volunteers.
And Dr. Chase, the facilities, it includes our grounds as well.
So that's a conversation that we need to have, because the one thing that was recommended by the document is definitely like the auditorium, cafeteria out, but the outside grounds has to be a decision that's made by the board. So let's say if someone wants to use our football field, or someone wants to use our, I don't know, our soccer field, is that something that you're willing to do? And if you are, you have to have very strict guidelines. Like the gathering has to be no more than 10, you know, but it also depends if we go back to a level 3 or if we're at a level 4. So all of that really needs to be spelled out very, very clearly in whatever kind contract we issue if we're going to allow people to use our outdoor grounds, as per the NYSE document.
My only concern with that is there may be an additional cost if we have to do that, because someone would have to monitor adherence to those policies, right?
100%.
And it's already tough as it is when you come on a weekend or after school and you have people utilizing our fields. Like I was for the budget vote, I was there. There were people who were like, this was a park, walking dogs on campus and all of that. I would prefer not to, because then I feel like, do we have a responsibility if a crowd says, they might say, hey, we're only going to be here in this amount of people, and then you look up, and this actually happened on the day of voting, there was a full out soccer game.
Yeah, and what's happening is, you know, Mr. Falcone has become a one-man show in basically telling people you can't do this, you can't do that. I think that it puts him in jeopardy of getting into a confrontation with individuals who do not want to adhere to the guidelines. And I don't want to put him in a compromising position. You know, we would have to hire maybe a custodian or a safety officer to make sure that people are adhering to guidelines. That's an additional cost to the district. If I had to give you a recommendation, my recommendation would be for both indoor and outdoor facilities that we suspended.
Okay. Madam Chair, my concern is, I don't care who the person is, whether it's Falcone or a person who has been deemed a maintenance person or security, one person is going to be in jeopardy within a crowd anyway. We do not have any kind of mechanism right now to stop people from using our facilities. You go to Bailey School, you see crowds of people back there with their cooking. You go up to Highview. You go to the football field. They are there, and they are using our facilities, and there is no one there to stop them. I asked the several police officers why they do not patrol our property, and I was told we haven't asked to. And the one time we went there, we were told to leave, and we did. And now, if you don't believe me, you can call them and ask them yourself. Because these people are constant. I'm telling you, I saw like 80 people behind Bailey School. And I understand someone told me that they were up around Highview. They saw people all up around Highview cooking with cookout stoves. And I know someone told me they had went walking from what is that? 177 High Point, from the condos down there, down by the football field. They said they were having a ball. They had people all over the place, a big party down there. So if we can't control it, okay, without rules and regulations, how are we going to control it with rules and regulations? That's my question to you.
Yeah.
How do we plan to do it?
Yeah, Dr. Chase, that is
it's a concern.
That's a concern, and that's a challenge.
Which is why I
campus anymore, because there are people there.
Right, and whether it's Mike Falcone, whether it's the security person, I think it just puts people in jeopardy. So my recommendation is that you suspend both outdoor and indoor. And if people are using it, you call the police, and that means that's a violation on their part, and the police will handle it as appropriately.
All right. Can we reach out also to the department to see if they, will, occasionally monitor it, drive by, if they see something, can ask people to leave?
Yeah, we have. And every time we call, they've been very cooperative. We have asked them to do that, and we will continue to do that.
When the gate is closed, it does not deter people, because people from the private homes and the apartments adjacent to the back gate have cars all over the place. They park everywhere, and they've been calling the police to give them tickets because they park and walk up to the football field anyway. So I don't know how you're going to stop these people from using our property. I really don't know how you're going to do that. It hasn't been done yet, and this has been going on for years and years and years.
So I think this policy speaks to issuing a certification that they can use it. So I think we're suspending that to make sure that, right. I think that's what this policy speaks to. I think when Ms. Carey's speaking to more of a security issue during those off hours when there's no certification issued and people are just doing things on their own. And we will reach out to the police department again. I know Chief McNerney's coming back. We have a great relationship with the police department, and we'll reach out to them and just let them know, and ask them if it's okay if they can just continue to patrol our campus and our facilities.
Okay, budget transfer.
Question.
Was that Terry?
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Okay, Terry.
So thank you for clarifying that, Dr. Chase, that was a certifiable use. But Mrs. Carey brings up a good point, and one that I have talked about on and off for various years, and that we need a comprehensive policy for public use of our facilities, which actually goes beyond this discussion. So in that regard, I'm gonna keep it short and say that that's something the Facilities Committee should look at this year, number one. And then number two, I'm just concerned about increasing potential police and resident encounters. We want to keep our property clean and safe and minimize social distancing. And I think it's within the police purview to certainly drive by Bailey, and I highlight Bailey because it's a street view school, right? The other schools are off away from the street, and I guess it's their purview as well to do that. We're in a pandemic, obviously, and we have to minimize social distancing. We got to minimize interactions like that, and I think that's within their purview to do so. But I get a little nervous with us potentially having to call the police on that for all of the reasons that we're all familiar with. So that's all I have to say on that.
All right, thanks, Terry. All right, I believe this is the last one. I'm not sure. Where's my little thing here? The budget transfer. So currently we're required to get the BOE approval on all budget transfers 20,000 and above. They like to increase it from 20,000 to 40,000 and above. This will, if we keep it as it is now, this will prohibit us from making necessary purchases in a timely manner. For me, I don't agree with moving it up to a larger volume.
Me neither.
Yeah.
David, did you say something?
I don't. I'm not sure why I would approve that. I'd rather see what's going on.
Yep. Did anybody else have something? Ms. Carey, I see your screen just lit up.
Oh, it shouldn't have.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question. Is there a way, because emergencies will happen and, I'm sorry?
I'll meet.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say, can we just, well, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, we'll meet.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so Dr. Chase.
Yes.
Okay.
I think committees are next, right?
Committees are next. We're gonna jump into that real quickly. We're gonna try to keep it short. Dr. Chase, the ROC, which is what I'm calling it, your reopening committee. Is it also available online as well?
Well, yes, because I have a feeling that the committees will probably take some time. So 5 members are part of this already. So so they've seen it already. So I'm right. So what I can do is I can share that document with the full board so that people can just look through it. You're talking about the PowerPoint. I'm talking about the PowerPoint presentation.
The PowerPoint. Yes. All right, we're gonna jump back to committees. Where's my other paper? All right, so we're gonna jump back to committees. I know Tanya had something. I think I had something. And Tracy, I don't see anything else from anyone else.
Can you take it off a screen share?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
I just can't see everyone, so I feel like.
All right, we're off a screen share.
Thank you.
So for right now, our board committees, I gotta turn another light on. The existing board committees is audit committee, education personnel committee, facilities committee, governance committee, governmental relations committee, and safety and security committee. Let's see. And then the district committees were communications, community engagement committee, fiscal planning committee, health and wellness committee, technology committee. So those are the groups of committees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's 11 committees. Tanya.
Yeah, so this was my kind of pet peeve from the very beginning, was to reduce the number of committees and maybe also reshuffle them a little bit so that we would be more, it would be easier for us to attend and be truly effective. So I had a long time ago provided a list, which I think is still pretty, I kind of still like, which would bring it down to, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 committees. And I don't know how they would distribute between board and district, but essentially it would be, I'm going to leave one out, so actually 7, and go back to the 8th one at the end. So I was going to suggest that we actually have a personnel and students committee. And I suppose that would be a board committee, and maybe the only one that would not be subject to open meeting law, because we would be then discussing specific personnel and students. I think one of the things I found this year was that the education and personnel committee was really 99% about education. We never really discussed personnel issues, and we do have personnel issues that we need to discuss. So it would be personnel and students. And I thought that we could meld safety and technology because they are so intertwined. The third one would be education and wellness. So that would be about education, but also socio-emotional development, because those two are also very intertwined. I thought that we could also meld fiscal and audit. So that would be the fourth. The fifth would be facilities, then governance and policy, and then the seventh would be governmental relations. And the last one is a community engagement committee, which, you know, I know that David really likes that one. What I have found was that, you know, for the little time that we were able to hold these meetings, was that they were mostly like fetching sessions. And that it was, a lot of it was like a rehash of all the other committees and board meetings, so that it was, I mean, it was, I think people went there maybe for a summary, but I don't really, you know, anyway, that's the eighth one that we, you know, personally I wouldn't keep, but I know that I know David in particular really likes this one. So that's my suggestion for having 8 committees instead of 11.
I have a question. Your first communications, you had communications and information. Would that be more of a CEC combining thing or no?
Well, if you were to have that one, I guess community engagement would then include communication, and it would also, I always thought that should be more about trying to get people to kind of come into the schools to volunteer, to be more involved, to be more kind of proactive, rather than just, again, just a kind of a rehash of everything else that has happened. So.
Oh, thank you for explaining. Antoinette, I think I saw Terry's hand at one point.
Terry,
But I don't see him now.
I don't see him.
I could have sworn I seen him a minute ago. What time did it start?
I can take this list and just email it to everyone again.
That's fine. Okay, so let me add what I had was, I had a legislative and policy committee. Legislative to sort of, but I did have it as ad hoc, like on an as needed basis. So legislative meaning the sort of taking over what the governmental committee would do, which is outreach to our local elected officials and things like that. That doesn't happen all the time, every day, all the time, but that's what that would do on an as needed basis. And along with policies. Our policies, we're not doing it on a daily basis or even a monthly basis, but when a policy does come up and we need to address it, this committee will be able to take a look at that and then make a recommendation to the rest of the board. I had meant, and I'm not tied to the title, but like a mental health and wellness, just trying to talk about social, emotional, and also overall wellness. I had community engagement and communication, so combining engaging with the community, but also enhancing and addressing communications also with our community as well. And then I had finance and facilities together, and in that they would also address audit and fiscal planning as well. I had safety and technology, and then I still remained with having education and personnel.
Antoinette?
Terry, yes.
So I think with regard to the audit committee, and Mary, you could correct me if I'm wrong here, that is a state mandated committee that
Correct.
can't really be combined with anything else. So that's what I'll say about that. Antoinette and Tanya, thank you for those ideas. And I know, Tanya, you said you would circulate this again in writing.
I just did.
You just did? Okay, so I haven't looked at my email yet. Antoinette, did you send yours as well in writing?
No, I didn't send it in writing.
Because, and the only reason I ask is good ideas, a lot of overlap there, obviously, for obvious reasons. I'm just having a little difficulty digesting the differences and the similarities with this, with all of these. See, I see Tanya's now. And I know as I listened to Tanya, I was listening, that's why I wasn't writing. I didn't have any, other than the fiscal and audit, that was the only thing that was a question for me because, and I see here you said audit being the only one required by law, so we can't use these legally. I don't have any problem with these.
You said, I'm sorry, so we say that last part, Terry, again, when you said something about you. I thought you said we can't lose this legally.
We can't.
Yeah, you can't.
I'm sorry.
Terry, say that again. I'm sorry.
Sure. Thank you. Tanya had suggested fiscal and audit, and I said I don't think you can combine these two. Tanya used the word fused legally in her email. I was reading it at the time, but yeah, I think that's the only one that I would
question
about. Yeah, I mean the governance thing. I mean, again, an entire board. The whole idea of a committee is to have a smaller amount of people to take a look at something and decide what they and make a recommendation to the board. Why that committee would necessarily not remain a committee in essence. Why this would be a committee of the whole, I'm not quite understanding. Perhaps, Tanya, you could,
Yes.
yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Perhaps you can elaborate on that. You know, I will say this, I was at the Westchester Putnam School Board Association meeting yesterday. We had a retreat as well. And they asked about what is unique about your district. They asked two questions: what's unique about your board, and what's unique about our district? And the thing that I said that's unique about our board is that we have a governance committee that, for better or for worse, tries to systematize our operations. And a number of my colleagues on that board, you know, wow, that's a good idea. So look, I'm not saying, look, I know obviously here you're saying not to eliminate it, but you talk about for being efficient. I think it lacks efficiency to have the entire board, because then we only could meet at our board meetings or in a special meeting. So that on the surface would be inefficient. But other than that, I agree very much with all of this. I'm reading it at the same time.
Antoinette, how did you address governance? Did you? Because I don't have yours in front of me, so I don't. You read them, but did you address governance?
I don't have governance at all on here. I have, yeah, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 committees. I don't have governance on here at all.
So I just wanted to respond to Terry, and that I agree that it would be less efficient. The only reason I put that in was because I actually was doing a little reading about how other districts do committees. And I ran across several districts having a kind of basically the whole board looking at governance and policy. But I could, you know, it's just a suggestion. That's where that came from.
Could you provide information on which boards do that? Because I know when we, as the governance committee, we were talking about a governance manual. We provided examples of how Brewster does it, how Dobbs Ferry does it. I subsequently got another manual yesterday that I'm going to share with the board. So could you share? You said you looked at other boards. Could you share which boards those were and what documentation you saw?
Okay, I have to go back and look for it, but I will. Okay.
Could you send it to us, please?
Sure. Yeah.
If you all talk, I don't see.
Antoinette, can you send us your list of the 6, just so I can put them? Huh?
I'm typing it now. I just
Okay.
on the iPad, so my typing is
Okay. Sorry.
a little bit slower.
Maybe we can put them into a Google Doc next to each other or whatever, or a list, and then we can. So Mr. Williams was talking about the mandated fiscal committee, which made me remember, I think,
Audit.
Oh, sorry, audit. Which made me remember, I think health and wellness is also either a mandated committee, or we have to have, it doesn't have to say health and wellness, but it has to address certain things. Isn't that correct also? So
yes,
I know
the committee must exist. I don't know if you can expand that into other things, but it must exist. Also, in the plan that we just got on from NYSED, it also says there has to be some continuation of the social emotional wellness thing. So
So I heard Tanya, I see Tanya's thing, she has education and wellness. So I think health and wellness is under there. And then I heard Antoinette say mental health and wellness committee or something like that. We're going to see it in a minute. So I think we're covered with those 2 suggestions at least.
Who updates the safety plan?
The safety
and security, I think they both said.
But Tracy, so just real quick, according to the School Board Association, there are 2 committees that they have listed here. There's a parent committee and a wellness committee. They are technically optional. Districts are required to seek input and participation from the listed stakeholder groups. Committees can fulfill this function, but other methods might work as well. So surveys, meetings, etc. So that's as far as like if you had a wellness committee or if you had like a
No, I'm not talking about that. I don't know where that document, you said New York State School Board Association, I'm not sure when that came out, but I do remember that the district, I don't know when that came out, but I do remember, and maybe my information is dated, but I remember the district at one point abolished their health and wellness committee, and then we had to reinstate it because it was mandatory. So I don't know where that mandate came from. I don't know.
I would say maybe, I don't know where, it depends on where the mandate came from, but this was provided at training last school year. So maybe it's a state thing.
Let me just finish what I'm saying. I don't know where that mandate came from, so I don't know if it's a different avenue. I don't know if the people who were on the board at the time, because I wasn't even on the board. I just remember that happening. I don't know if the people on the board know where that came from. I don't know if the administration knows where that came from. Maybe it's not relevant anymore. I just didn't want it to be forgotten. That's all.
Okay, and the other thing is I like to check with the attorney because it does say, of course, that the audit committee is required unless the school has fewer than 8 teachers, which we obviously don't. I guess I'm wondering if are we saying it's required on its own, or can it be a combination with another committee?
Point. As long as it's covered, it doesn't necessarily have to be in.
So I sent mine to the board as well. Are there any ones that stick out that people are totally against? Are there any that we can just kind of collaborate so we can like move forward from this? So I think I don't know what was common. Let me see.
So
are you okay if I cut
everyone's information? I already opened up a Google Doc. I already shared it with all of you, and I'm just
I saw. Thank you.
Information.
Thank you,
yeah, that's helpful. Are you going to cut and paste Antoinette's in there too?
Almost done.
Okay, great. Thank you. Because there's some overlap. I think they both suggested the safety and security to be combined, right?
Okay, I'm done. It should be there.
All right. It's off. All right, Ashley, I'm in there.
Oh, can I have the
Okay.
Antoinette, your safety and security, did you have technology in there at some point?
Did I put security? I didn't mean to put security. I actually meant to put it is technology. That's the one thing that me and Tanya actually had that was the same. I that was by accident. On my written
I just fixed it.
One that says technology.
I fixed it.
All right, thank you, Ashley.
So how are we now with the board assignments, the board committees? What are we doing with them?
I guess we have to say for sure what would we like to do. So are we at least in agreement that safety and security is one on its own, because that is something for those who suggested had in common?
Safety and technology?
I'm sorry, safety and technology, yes.
I can see safety. Well, where is security going if you just have safety and technology?
Because I think security falls under safety anyway.
Safety, security, and technology?
Okay.
I think we have to say security to include them in the work of the safety and technology committee.
I guess my only question is, I know that being on several of these committees, each one of these committees has a lot to do. It's a big task. So some of these committees, I mean, when you start combining them, I mean, some of these meetings go 2-3 hours as it is. That's the only, I'm fine with the idea. I'm just trying to figure out how do we logistically make this actually fruitful.
Well, each committee would have to, when we decide on the committees, they would have to create their charge for the year and then bring it to the board for approval.
Yeah.
Well, you have the Education and Personnel Committee, and being on that committee, I know we like Tanya said, we never get to personnel. We only deal with education. And I'm sure that that's going to be the same with any dual committees that we have. One is going to dominate the other. So I'm just wondering if you're going to have safety, security, and technology, which one is going to dominate? Technology, most likely. And safety and security will come in a sad last somewhere along the way. So, I mean, I don't know how important it is for us to combine these committees, but I will go along with whatever you all decide, because I'm not going to argue about it, because I don't like being on as many as I'm on right now anyhow.
Yeah. I think that what Tracy said a while, I think some of them become inefficient because there are a lot of them. And like, I know my name is on a variety of them, and it's really tough being on a lot of them. And I think that's for a lot of us. I think that we need to do something that Dr. Chief is always been at you. We should develop a charge and stick to that charge and define what that charge means and how you're going to do it. So I think that's a big part of it, and how the meetings, of course, are ran efficiently. We have to be better in doing that. I think it's very ineffective if we have, I count how many now we have.
11.
Like it's just, and that doesn't even include the liaisons too.
Do you know what district committees mean?
Yes.
It means that that people in the district are supposed to be on these committees.
Yes, yeah.
And there's none on there. There's nobody, as far as I know, there's no participation from the community on these committees.
CEC has a lot of community participation.
Well, we know you do, David. I don't even, when I see community engagement committee, that doesn't even resonate in my brain. I'm talking about communications, fiscal, health and wellness, technology. How many community people are on those committees?
We've got Walter Simon steps into the technology committee sometimes. Fiscal planning for the one meeting that we had online, a bunch of people participated in that. And health and wellness, I don't know, I have no knowledge. But facilities, we got people from the two camps lined up. The people who are sort of the tax mavens, and the people who are the education enthusiasts, and they went at it with us refereeing in the middle, and it was beautiful to watch and participate in, and we actually made some progress with that. So I felt pretty good about that one.
All I know is that I have heard nothing from the community about being on any committees dealing with the school district. Okay, the town is different. They go out and grab people, whether they like it or not. They snatch them up and have them participate. But I don't see that here in the district. So I am asking, and I'm going to tell you and I'm going to go back. Yes, I'm going to go back into the day when we had the district committees. Well, we had one board member on the committee. And then we had a chairperson from the community, okay, for the district committees. That gave them more ownership to the committee, okay? And more people were able to participate because they felt that they were their committees. I don't know how you all want to do this, but I'm going to tell you this right here and now. I am not going to get up and be ready at 9 o'clock in the morning for no doggone committee. I'm retired. I have a right to rest, okay, until I want to get up. And it's not at 9 o'clock talking to anybody on no virtual or going to any meeting. I will be glad to participate in anything as long as we do it at a reasonable hour. And if you don't want me on the committee, just let me know, and I won't volunteer for it. Because if you're going to have 8, 9, 10 o'clock meetings, don't expect me. I'm here today on Saturday because my president asked me to be here. And I respect her, and I will be here for her and the rest of the board. But don't ask me on these committees to be up and at them at 9 o'clock in the morning, because I'm not going to be available. So that's my spiel on committees. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Carey. So do we have an agreement on any of these committees at all? If not, we are going to move forward into a whole nother section.
So can I just want to say something about, not about Cora's right to rest, but about the previous point she made.
Please don't go there.
Okay, it's that I think that she's talking about people who are actually permanently committed to the committees from the community, that they're actually members of these committees, and not just that they come in from time to time when they're interested. And I think that that's a terrific idea, to reach out actually and ask people to sign up for these committees. Like, you know, we have accountants in the community. Why wouldn't they be on the fiscal committee? We have maybe, you know, people with whoever has expertise in a particular field should really be sitting on these committees in a permanent fashion. They should make that commitment to show up to the meetings. So I definitely agree with that concept. And then Antoinette, how do you want us to make the final decision? Are we somehow going to vote, or what is the? I mean, maybe not today, but I'm just saying, do you?
What I'm saying is, right, we can, again, this could be something that we table and move forward, but if we are now, we need to talk about what we feel should be the committees and kind of move forward with it. So we have.
Well, we can see this. You guys both put the safety and technology. If nobody objects, we should just put that in as one, unless somebody feels strongly, right?
I said that several minutes ago. So
I hear you. I don't know. Okay. So we got
audit
one.
does need to be a separate committee.
Okay.
Yes, the technology committee is a district committee, and the safety and security committee is a board committee. They're not the same.
Yes, my question is, but who designates which committee?
I like them the way they are until we can get a chance to really discuss it and talk about it, maybe in the year 2035. Okay, so let's move. Let's just keep things as they are right now. Let's move. Let's get on the committees. Whoever wants to be on the committees, let's keep it the way it is for now, and let's move on because we got other things to do. Why are you going to hold this off?
I think that we should move on. I don't agree with keeping the committees as they are. I'd rather table it to another meeting than say that we're just going to keep what's there.
Okay, I'm still going to stick to the way I feel, but you go ahead and do what you got to do.
No, I hear you, Miss Carey, because we did the same thing last year. There was people wanted to make changes, and we said the same thing that you just said. We'll just wait till next year. Next year's now here, and I think we shouldn't put it off again as far as just moving on altogether. But that's just my thoughts. So anybody else wants to?
Can I make a suggestion, Madam Chair? Maybe you should have somebody put together what they think, maybe 2 or 3 people or whatever you want to put together how they think the committee should look, and bring it back to us so that we can discuss it. If everybody likes what they see, fine. If they don't, we'll discuss it and make it real. But I think somebody.
That's what 2 people did. That's what 2 people on this board did just now.
Okay, fine. So we'll see it in writing and go on.
We're going to come back to it. Okay, moving on. Here. All right, so we are at the point where we are going to adjourn to go into executive session.
We're not going to do the rock?
What's the rock?
The rock is the reopening committee plan. Dr. Chase.
Committee rock, okay.
Dr. Chase, you can definitely do the rock. I'm just asking for an abbreviated version of it, unless you added something different, because again, the majority of us participate in the Rock Live.
Rock Live.
Yes.
So, no, there are no additions since you've seen it last.
All right. So, but you could do, Dr. Chase, surely do a review of what you have for those members who have not been able to participate.
So you have a motion. I think do you have a motion on the table?
Nope, I didn't say it yet.
Okay. All right. So if you could, if I could just share the screen.
Sure.
Yep, I'm turning it over to you, Dr. Chase.
And what I'm going to ask is that for the board members who've seen this already, I apologize.
Excuse me, am I the only one that hasn't seen it?
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
And I will breeze through it really quickly. Does everyone see a PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You're up.
All right, so apparently Ms. Carey won't be able to see it. So we'll have to be able to print this out so she can see it. We've developed a reopening task force committee. The committee is comprised of staff, students, teachers, board members, school administrators, community leaders, partnerships, healthcare professionals, union leadership. We have the union leadership from all 3 collective bargaining unions. We have, you name it, they're on the committee. Various stakeholders, parents, and just concerned community members are part of this work in putting together what we believe is probably one of the most important decisions that we can make for children. Thus far, we've met 3 times. The committee is over 60 members strong. Our last meeting on the 23rd, we will use most of the recommendations made from that meeting as we put together that final plan that has to go to the state. Just to give the board a little bit of some timeline, we received a guidance document from the State Education Department as well as Department of Health approximately 2 weeks ago. From that document, we were told that we had to create 3 likely learning models. One model would be the full return of all students to school buildings with social distancing and safety protocols in place. The second model would be a hybrid model, which means in-person and remote sort of mixed, but it also utilizes a density reduction approach, which means we need to have at least 50% of the kids, our normal enrollment, in the schools at one time, with also some safety, not some, but with safety protocols in place. And the third model is a full remote model. And this model can be used if, in fact, we bring kids back and we have to close school because there is a COVID case, or this could be the model and we just don't know. But we had to make sure that we have plans for all 3. And so we put together our group. Our group was broken up into 5 different legs of the model. One leg would be operations and facilities. Another leg was technology. Another was finance, partnerships, resources. The other was health, physical and mental health, and the fifth one, was teaching and learning. Each subcommittee was given a task to create recommendations based on the document, and also identify some real challenges that we have. So I'm not going to read this because we don't have the time to read it all, but the recommendations that you see here were made. Recommendations from how do we maintain a safety environment? What do we do with the facilities? How often do we clean the classrooms? What do we do with bathrooms? Well, one of the things that we came up with was with the bathrooms, simply, depending on the number of stalls, depends on how many students can be in the restroom, possibly using our noon aids to monitor that this is in fact happening and that there's cleaning in between bathroom use and that children wash their hands before and after. That's just one particular. Another is making sure that we have directional movements at the schools. Kids and staff are walking in one direction. Stairwells will also be one directional, and those are just examples. Also, we talked about behaviors that help reduce the spread. Some of those behaviors would be having the hand sanitizer dispensers readily available, having them conspicuously displayed around the schools. We talked about the health screenings. We talked about how to handle children and staff who might get sick, who might show symptoms during the school day, having an isolation room at each building. What are those procedures for people being picked up should they be sick? What do you do if someone, how do you, frequent hand washing, the proper use of that? How do you do that? How do you wear a mask? Transportation continues to be one of our biggest challenges. We started off with how we're going to maintain a healthy bus, and we found out through our guidance document that we can't have hand sanitizer on the school bus because hand sanitizer is combustible. So there are some guidelines that we're following. In terms of transportation, just a few things that we talked about. We talked about children must wear masks on the bus at all times. Our bus drivers and monitors will wear masks with face shields. We talked about what social distancing can look like. It is a challenge in terms of social distancing on the school bus. We talked about keeping families together. We talked about how children will enter and exit the bus, disinfecting the bus during the AM and PM runs, making sure that the windows remain open. In terms of healthy operations, just making sure that all of our staff are fully trained in signs to look for. We indicated that there will be a moratorium on field trips, social gatherings. We're going to encourage virtual field trips as much as we can. We talked about already at this particular meeting, visitors being limited. That was one of the recommendations that came out of the committee. We also talked about reducing student gathering spaces. Those communal spaces will not be used in the way we traditionally use. Just as important is how do we communicate all of this to everyone? And we talked about even improving our communication. While we think we did a fairly good job in communicating in the spring, we know that we're going to have to really increase communication and just letting people know what's going on, keeping people informed through different modalities, understanding not everyone's going to get email, understanding not everyone's going to have the mobile app, understanding not everyone is going to get text messages, ramping up the use of the TV studio, possible mailings, but mailings can be a little tricky if in fact there's a change in how we are to go outside, and I don't know if that's going to change. But we also talked about educating not just our parents and our children and our teachers, but we talked about educating the community, because we believe that if we educate the community, it will also help reduce the spread throughout the community and also help reduce the spread at school. And we also talked about participating in countywide health department virtual meetings. Dr. Reynolds and I are registered. We are the point people for the county. And so there are meetings that we have to attend. There's information that we have to bring back. Each school has created a pandemic team. We will have a district-wide pandemic team as well. Food services, every child enrolled in our district will be entitled to 2 meals a day, whether they're in person or whether there's remote. We believe we did a fairly good job during the spring with making sure all the kids eat. To date, during our summer program, we served about 8,000 meals where children had to go to either Bailey or to Highview to get their food. And we're working out the details now if we're going to have a hybrid model or if we're going to have remote, what that food distribution is going to look like moving forward. So the technology committee, these are the members. I don't have to read it out to you. You see it there for yourself. They've made several recommendations, and some of those recommendations were discussed today as we talked about some of the board goals. We want to use multiple video conferencing solutions. I know that during the spring, we focused heavily on the Google Suite, and most of us use Google Meet. One of the things that I've been discussing with our union leadership is the need for live instruction if we are to go remote or if we are to do a hybrid model. It's important that kids actually see their teachers as well as seeing their fellow classmates. That's part of their social emotional growth. And so we don't want to deprive kids of actually having that teacher live instruction with them. And also we know that that's good for their academic development as well. What's going to be really key is making sure that we train all of our teachers. And I know that this group has spelled out what those trainings might be. They've also listed some of their challenges, which you see here on the side. They've also made a couple of other recommendations about expanding our bandwidth. If we are to bring teachers back into the buildings and we don't have the staff, we'll have teachers who are live streaming simultaneously, and we don't want any hiccups with that because that will interrupt instruction for kids. So we want to make sure that we have everything in place for the various what ifs that can possibly happen. What's also important is to make sure that our students who might be in our homeless populations or vulnerable populations, that these kids also have not only the access to the devices, but these kids also have access to hotspots, and these kids have access to connectivity, because that's very, very important. Other recommendations was the use of iReady, the use of iExcel, again, some of the training, making sure that everything that we do is not only in English, but it's also in Spanish. And you'll see more recommendations under technology. And again, I'll make sure that every one of you have access to this and you can look at this at your leisure. Okay, and so we just, again, if you see that this group made plans for not only full remote, but they also made plans for hybrid, as well as if we have a traditional school, those 3 models that I spoke about earlier. Again, that ongoing teacher training. And if you notice that some of these recommendations, you'll find that they're repetitive depending on the learning model. Okay, the other group, physical and mental health. We know that before we can actually get into teaching our children, we've got to get into the physical and mental health. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about physical and mental health, because one of the recommendations my administrative team made for a goal is that we all get involved in mental and physical health. It's no surprise that, you know, there are... Ms. Carey, did you want to say something?
Oh, no, I just put my telephone down. That's all.
Oh, okay. There's no surprise that so many of us were negatively affected by the pandemic. Our children, our staff, our administrators, and I don't know if it goes even beyond that, just so many different people in our school community. And I would even say with even our board, you know, people were affected in one way or the other. We've had parents who've lost jobs. We've had children who have experienced loss. Therefore, there's a sense of grief, right? So when we think of grief, we tend to think that grief has only to do with the death of someone. But it really entails the loss of something, the loss of school, the loss of being with friends and teachers, the loss of their parents losing their jobs, thus impacting their livelihood. So before we can even get into the academics, we've got to get into the heads and the hearts of not only our children, but our staff, administrators. With my administration group, one of the things that I've asked them to do is we're doing wellness checks on each other. So I might send Patricia Simone a text message, I don't know, in the next couple of minutes with a joke, and just said, hey, Patricia, I'm checking on you. How are you doing? Or, hey, Gary, how are you doing? Matt, how's the family? And that's something that we've committed to do with one another. I'm gonna step outside a little bit, because, you know, I think we're in an environment where everyone needs to feel that they're cared for, that there's compassion, that they are appreciated, and people need to feel that they can trust, right? So everyone needs to feel a sense of safety in that component. So, you know, it really starts with the people who are on the Zoom call. So it starts with us, board, superintendent, cabinet, principals. It goes all the way to the entire staff. So if people see that there's disagreement and distinction and all sorts of negative things that are going on at this level, people are going to feel it at different levels. So it's important that as we build and talk about social emotional health, that we also demonstrate the behaviors that we want to see with our staff. And it starts with us. And I could speak for myself. I met with the teachers and talked to them about the importance of, maybe I need to do a better job at checking in on them. Maybe I need to meet with the entire union cabinet as opposed to just a union president. And you know what? I did just that, and that meeting was amazing. I'm meeting with the GCSO entire group. People just need to feel that they're heard, they're cared for, and that we're all in this together. It's easy to talk about it, but it's something different when we walk the walk. And so, you know, this group had to come up with different proposals in terms of how do we meet the social emotional needs of all who are under our care. They've identified recommendations, they've identified challenges, they've identified different ways in which we can work together. I am happy to say that Ms. Pat White from the mental health department is part of our team. She has definitely given us some great advisement, and she is now a partner to us on a different level. Dr. Teresa Taylor Williams was a part of this team, who's also a partner. We have a parent in our school district who happens to be a pediatrician. She reached out to me because of one of the phone blasts that I sent out, and she just wanted to give me something from the American Academy of Pediatrics. And when I found out that she was a pediatrician, she became a member of the team. We have healthcare providers on this team who are giving us sound advice and sound information. We even talked about how do we actually implement SEL while the children are on the bus. It's about training those monitors and bus drivers to be a little bit more sensitive to the needs of children. A simple good morning, hey, how you doing? A wave to the parent. I mean, just these little routine things. We're also talking about training our staff and identifying when in fact people are in need of social emotional support. How do we work with our folk, right? So yeah. Anyway, if we have a hybrid model, how would that look like? I mean, how would that look? How will the attendance policy impact SEL? One of the teachers asked me, well, Dr. Chase, if teachers need to take a mental health day, are we going to be penalized? And I told them, as long as I'm superintendent, there's going to be no punitive environment while we're under COVID right now. That's not the energy that we want to create. It's got to be an energy where we're working together. There's collaboration. We don't have to like each other, but we've got to be able to work with one another, because at the end of the day, it impacts how children function. The other group, and I'll get to their work in a second, and these are traditional. Teaching and Learning Committee. The Teaching and Learning Committee was a fairly large committee, and this is the committee that has made recommendations as it relates to teaching and learning, if it's a hybrid model, or even if it's a full traditional or a full remote. They gave various recommendations, looking at some of the core subject areas, making sure that we have an emphasis on those power standards. Those power standards are those standards that all kids must know and be able to do in order to function in said subject area, right? And so we're breaking those out and teasing those out appropriately and making sure that we really challenge our students who are coming back. We've also talked about identifying an appropriate summative and formative assessment to analyze where our children are. That's creating that baseline, identifying those kids who may have regressed, identify those kids who progressed in some of this distant learning, because they were kids who actually did fairly well. We've also talked about identifying those kids in vulnerable populations and making sure that we are giving those kids our full attention. Those are our ENL children. Those are our children with disability. Those are our children in temporary housing. We're very concerned about those children because we don't know what the new model is going to be, but whatever it is, those kids are going to be prioritized. And one of the things we said was we want to prioritize giving those kids full-time in-person instruction if feasible. Here are some other plans for teaching and learning. If we are to go full remote, still using Google Classroom, using some of those Google platforms to reach our children with some of the supplemental, with some of the enrichment that we must provide for those kids. We also talked about schools connecting with our families and having those weekly or those weekly phone or video meetings with families, especially families that we can identify that could be struggling. And again, even through teaching and learning, wellness and SEL must be embedded in the schedule, no matter what. There's no exception whatsoever. During remote learning, we had Wellness Wednesday, and that wasn't really what an SEL program should look like, but we wanted to at least have people have an opportunity to reconnect, to come together, to do some things that will actually make them feel good about the situation that they might be in, even for a moment. Finance, resources, and partnerships, and I'm almost done. Finance, resources, partnerships was another committee. That committee had to identify various partnerships that we will reach out to. Financing, that group worked with various partnerships and identifying them. That group didn't have any additional recommendations to what they've already shared, but one of the things that this group recommended that I think is really great, and it goes along with what Mr. Panetta mentioned, was putting together a reference guide for staff about COVID requirements, those procedures, And that's something that we're going to be committed to doing. Not ready now. We want to get this plan out now. And then from that plan, we'll have a smaller committee just create a staff requirement, almost like a handbook for COVID-19. That's going to be really important so that everyone knows what he or she is supposed to do. There was a clarification made for this group, and that clarification was about daycare, and it was also about childcare. So again, we don't know if we're going to be in a hybrid. We don't know if it's going to be full remote. I venture to believe that if it's full remote, the governor will ask that we provide childcare for essential workers, and the district is poised to do that. I know that there's been some recommendations that the district look into hosting childcare on campus. That's not off the table. We just have to see how that's going to work. There was another recommendation about perhaps maybe childcare for the teaching staff, so that the teaching staff can be fully focused on teaching children and their children are being cared for at the same time. Again, we just really have to look into the logistics of what that might look like. But at the end of the day, we can have these grandiose plans, and we do, and we're meeting all of the requirements of the New York State Education Department as well as the Department of Health. There are still many challenges. One challenge in particular is meeting the needs of our vulnerable populations. I have to remember our students with disabilities. I have to remember our E&L, our temporary housing students. But then I have another group of students that we don't talk about often. And these are my ALP kids and my IB kids. And we want to make sure that all of their needs are being met, regardless of the learning model we select. That's important. Guidelines for transportation, it handicaps us. It handicaps us in that there are certain things that we may not be able to do. With the bus fleet that we have, it seems to be a problem around the country. Transportation. How do we meet those mandates? Some of those mandates may not necessarily be realistic, and I don't think they had a transportation supervisor available when they actually issued those mandates, because some of them are just impossible unless we purchase new buses, additional buses. So even if we stagger the start and end time, it still poses challenges for us. But we'll work through those challenges, and we'll make sure that our kids get to school safe and they get home safe. One of the things that we're encouraging parents to do is to transport their kids on their own. We think that that will help. We're also asking parents to provide lunch for their children. We believe that will help as well. The other challenge is Chromebooks for all students. Dr. Reynolds has been working very closely with Carlos Ramirez to ensure that all of our kids have Chromebooks from pre-K to 12 at least offered. Some kids don't want our Chromebooks because they believe their own devices are better, and that's fine, but we want to offer them. In addition to kids having them, we also realize that there are some Chromebooks that will need to be repaired, some will need to be replaced, and so we're building our mechanism for doing that. We want to make sure that instructional delivery speaks to equity, giving kids what they need, not all kids getting the same, but giving kids what they need. That's what equity is, right? So we want to make sure that those kids in vulnerable populations, those kids who are ALP, IB kids, we want to make sure that kids who have temporary housing, we want to make sure that children whose parents have to work and we have to have remote learning, giving people what they need, and that's important to us. And I don't know if we're going to be able to meet everyone's needs, but we're going to work really hard to make sure that we try. Space is a challenge. If we have to adhere to social distancing, which we do, space is going to be a problem. Now we have a big, beautiful campus, and one of the directives that we gave, and it's recommended in the guidance document, is that we use our outdoor spaces as much as we can. We have gorgeous campus, and there's opportunities for that, but we're also aware that there could be inclement weather. There are going to be days when it's going to get a little cool, and so we have to make provisions for that. We're in the process of actually pricing tents, and maybe we can place tents so that we can have more kids. I'm so happy that the Theodore Young Center has offered space. Some of you who were on our last Zoom call, we had members of the clergy. We tried to get Solomon Schechter, which is Leffler now. We tried to get Sacred Heart. They said they were coming, but they weren't. Two of the pastors just texted me as we were talking that they will be there for our August 10th meeting. So and they weren't at the other ones. So they're kind of hearing that the district is reaching out, not just for space, but space not just for housing our kids, but also space for storing things that we may not need so that we can provide more space for our kids on our own campus. And I'm really happy that so far we have people who are willing to open up their facilities to our children. We just have to worry about the insurance and mechanism of all of this if we need it, but it's nice to know that we have partners in the community who are willing, and I mean partners on Hartsdale side, partners on Fairview side. That really is helpful. Supporting childcare needs, that's going to be a challenge. I cannot promise every parent that we can provide them childcare, but what I can promise them is that we're going to try really hard. I call the YMCA to make sure that we still have a relationship. I'm thankful that we do. We paid our bill on time. We only had 2 kids last time in the spring to take advantage of the childcare at the YMCA. I do understand that perhaps if we had it on campus or closer, perhaps maybe, and we're looking into how that can possibly look. But if the governor tells us that we have to go all remote, we have to adhere to that directive, and we will hopefully try to help parents, or we will encourage parents, and we've done this already, encourage parents to work with other parents to create pods and groups. In Germany, they did that very, very well in creating pods, where you have a parent in the community who said, I'll take this shift. Another parent said, I'll take this shift, and we put the kids together. Or maybe there's a parent who's very, very good at math. That parent can help the children with the math work. Another parent who can help the children with reading and other needs. And we're hoping that parents will come together in doing that. Or even parents just to provide some sort of social activity for children that's safe. So we're hoping that parents will get together. They were encouraged to do that, and we're hoping that that will happen. The last is funding, and I'm just going to ask Mary to speak to that. That's not really last. 2 things. I'm going to ask Mary to speak to funding, and I'm going to ask Mary to also speak to the ventilation portion, which is also of concern to the district.
Dr. Chase, before you do that, can you please let Carol in, because you have control of the
Let who in?
Carol Melnick.
Oh, wait. Oh, yep, I see her. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Mary?
Okay. So as far as the funding, we know that the governor had announced that he was going to potentially make cuts. I will say we reduced in our budget this year the revenue, the state aid revenue, and a variety of revenues by 10% already. We have set aside the additional 10% in the event that that occurs. The CARES funding was actually released, I believe, yesterday, and I'm waiting to get access to that part of the portal so we can begin the application process for that. And then when we talk about the ventilation, I sent Dr. Chase, and I believe she forwarded it to everybody, the ventilation issue that we have. And I'm just pulling up what I typed. We reviewed the building condition survey, and Bailey was considered unsatisfactory. So we went further and we looked at the 5-year plan, which has dollar amounts associated with it. And we reached out to our architect, and the architect sent back a list of things that we should do prior to opening schools for COVID. I'm just trying to pull up the actual document. I apologize.
So that document was sent to every board. It should be on board docs as well.
I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt you, but it's 1 o'clock. So we're like 30 minutes over our schedule. And I know we only have 1 more hour left to this special meeting. Is there any way we can deal with this at an actual special meeting and get to the executive session stuff we were supposed to do?
Well, I mean, that's fine, but I will say this. I am going to need just, I need the green light that we can move forward with making these facility repairs and also addressing our ventilation system at Bailey for just in case we have to open up school, but not even just that, it needs to be done. So this needs to be done on an emergency basis. So if we can just have another 5 minutes to make sure that there's clarity and the board understands what we need to do, we would really appreciate this, because this is really important.
Madam President.
Miss Carey.
Okay. I can't deal with this. I have nothing that deals with anything that has to do with Bailey School. I cannot vote on something I don't know about. that I haven't read, haven't discussed it with the board? Why are we discussing this? When did it come by? When did you get this information?
So the original information was in the BCS that was given to the board weeks ago, and it
Yeah, that was weeks ago. Why weren't we told about it weeks ago? Why didn't we discuss it weeks ago?
Ms. Carey, so the board, okay, so it was deemed as unsatisfactory. However, it was unsatisfactory, and it's still allowed.
I'm sorry, I can't, you know, Madam President, I'm gonna have to maybe even get off this phone because I can't deal with this. We were told, we made a decision some months ago that anything that came to us on the spur of the moment, we were not going to take a vote on until we were able to talk about it and get a good idea of what it was about. I do not want to hear about something I did not get any information about and telling me that it's an emergency or we got to do it now, blah, blah, blah. If it was in my packet 2 months ago, then it should have been discussed 2 months ago. And it wouldn't have been an emergency today.
Carrie?
So, I'm sorry. I just can't.
100% hear you. I'm not, at least unless Dr. Chase, you correct me, I don't believe that we are voting on this today at all.
No, we're basically bringing something to your attention that was brought to, the urgency came from the document that we have from the Department of Health. We just received that document days ago, like everyone else. And because the document has guidelines that are new, and any other time, Bailey would be deemed as acceptable for occupancy, but because the guidelines spells out exactly what should be involved in the ventilation system at Bailey, we recognize that it doesn't meet the new requirements that were newly brought to us. So given that, we're bringing to the board's attention that we reached out to the architect to ask the architect, what does Greenburgh Central School District need to do in order to be COVID-19 compliant? The architect gave us that information, I would say 2 days ago. Once they gave us that information, we then shared it with the board in the packet, and we were hoping to have a discussion today.
I can't discuss it today. I haven't seen it. I just got finished looking at my packet.
Yeah, so what I would say too, Dr. Chase, we have 2 other things that are on our plate. I do believe we need to have this conversation, but it's not going to happen today. So if we could come up with a time frame where we can meet and discuss this matter, it's not something that I believe that we should rush, like have this conversation now and then come back and vote on it another day. I think we should have the conversation, be able to ask the questions, and have a really thorough review of what you would like us to do, and then vote on it. I have read through it. I can't get back to it now for whatever reason on board docs, but I have read through it. I know I have a couple of concerns in there, and I just think that this deserves not a rush conversation. This is something that we should be able to have a deep conversation about.
David has his hand up. You probably can't see because of the.
I can't see it. David, you gotta say something. David.
Is the 28th too soon?
The 28th? When it
Tuesday.
Tuesday. I can do Tuesday.
Wait, let me look at my calendar. Wait. I don't. I feel like I could do Tuesday. I'm not 100% sure. I feel like I have something else happening and it's just not on my phone calendar. So I'm maybe for Tuesday. Dr. Chase, I don't believe you are available on Tuesday.
However, let me, can I say something? Because my cabinet and we see this as an emergency, because we're talking about it impacts the opening of school. And I would hate to say we can't open up a school because of something that we couldn't do that we could. I don't want to be the holdup of this discussion. So my cabinet members, I don't know their schedule, if they're available or not, but because I'm not, I don't want to hold up that progress because it's that important.
All right, I'm just trying to search one more. Go ahead. I'm sorry. So, was that Miss Carey? You were going to say something?
I'm finished.
Okay. I'm just trying to see. Dr. Chase looking for that other event that I believe I have something to another meeting, just in case.
I'm sorry. What day and time are we considering?
The Tuesday the 28th. I feel like.
But not at 9 a.m.
Can we do it Monday?
I'm trying.
You
I
have
have
3
to check
days
my-
notice?
Let's.
Can it be deemed as an emergency and it's Monday?
Ivy, you're on here. Can we do that?
Wait, I have a question. When is the governor supposed to actually issue his order about school closings or school reopenings, rather?
By the 10th
August.
or close to it?
He
August.
said before the 7th.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you because you all spoke at the same time.
He said before the 7th, during the week of August 3rd through the 7th.
Yeah.
From the quick glance that I looked at the document, it's a large amount of money. I do think that, I don't know if I'm not sure if I'll have time between now and Monday night. I'm not sure if anyone got a chance to look at the.
So I got a chance to look at it, but what I really want is for our architects to be present, because I think it's, I don't think that we can really make this type of a decision without them. So, and I think it should be a public meeting as well, right? I'm assuming it will be a public meeting, so.
Yeah, so Dr. Chase, Tracy, you said Monday is too soon for you?
Yeah, I mean, today is all gone. Listen, I got this last night. Today is all gone pretty much, because I'm not going to sit and read documents after this meeting. And my kids have been on hold all morning. And then tomorrow, I literally would have tomorrow. I work all day Monday. So if everybody can do Monday, then I'll come. I just want to know what I'm talking about when I'm voting on this amount of money. That's all.
3. So it's what, 4 pages?
Yes, it's 4 pages, but it's $2.5 million, Stephen.
Correct. And we need BBS there.
Yeah. So, Dr. Chase, can you do 2 things? Because I think it's important for BBS to be there. Can you see what their availability is, Monday or Tuesday? And then get back to us. Oh shoot, we have to know.
It is the weekend. It is a weekend. I don't know if they'll respond on the weekend. But I mean, it's a Zoom. So I mean, Mary, are you in close communication with the architect?
I'm going to reach out now and see if they respond.
So let's say for now, Tuesday, Dr. Chase, and what time, Dr. Chase?
I guess 6 o'clock. I need to see if well, let's see what the architect comes up with, because I think there's a preference to have the architect there. So yeah. I don't know if the architect has another scheduled meeting. So we'll take it from that. Mary's texting that person. Hopefully that person will respond.
All right, so let's say potentially Monday or Tuesday, 6 o'clock. Want the architects there for sure.
It should be. Mhm.
And since we may not know that right now before this meeting is over, if people can be flexible, if it comes up that it's Monday at 6, people should be prepared to be there. Ivy, for us, as far as notification, what happens? What do we need to do?
As soon as I know the date and time that you want to hold the meeting, I'll post it. The law says that I should be posting it 3 days in advance or as soon as practicable. One thing is if I get notified after 6 p.m. on Sunday that you want to have it at 6 p.m. on Monday, then I need the waivers from all the board members agreeing to the less than 24-hour notification.
Okay, so you'll need the waivers.
I'll need signed waivers, yes.
Okay. All right. So board Ashley?
As part of that meeting, the BBS architects presumably would be there. Are they going to able to explain how each one of the requirements that we've been given is accommodated by these adjustments? Because I would like that as part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And Madam Chair, I would also like to know where the money is coming from. I think somebody mentioned $2 million or something.
2.5.
2.5. Yes, that will be a part of the conversation too. Where is the money coming from? So that's what I'm saying, like this needs to be its own conversation, thorough information about the expense, the cost, where it's coming from, and the specifics in regards to all of the changes that need to be made.
So,
right.
Mary, just for the board's information, Mary, can you just speak to where the money's coming from? Because I know it was in that document. Can you just give us 30 seconds?
Absolutely. So if you recall, last year we had money that we assigned to future capital projects. There is $2,222,243 in there. So that's money that is available and sitting there. And then in this year's budget, you had budgeted for an interfund transfer of $1,331,000 for capital projects. I would be recommending that we use $277,757 of that for a total of 2.5, only because we don't know what we're gonna, these are estimates from the architect. So we have not started to look at any type of state contracts, or if we could possibly repair something rather than replace, but we have to be able to kind of move forward and know if in the event that Mr. Falcone can't fix something, then it may have to be replaced. And of course, we would always try to do it for less than what the architect says, but those prices are right off of the building condition survey.
All right, so if we could get that too for the meeting in writing, the usage of, where the money is coming from. Ms. Carey, if you could go next, and could you go last, because we're still having this conversation, even though we're saying we're not gonna have it.
Okay, listen, as long as the money's not coming from the mansion money we put aside for the mansion, I'm good with it.
No, the money is not coming from funds you set aside for the mansion.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so we're stopping this conversation. Please be prepared. If BBS is available only for Monday, that's when the meeting is going to happen on Monday. Okay, Ivy will have to help us get our signatures to waive it and kind of go from there. All right. Okay, so that's it for this meeting. Is Steve still? I know he's on mute. Steve, are you there? Because we're getting ready to go into executive session. Okay, let me text. All right. So while I'm waiting for Steve to respond back, I just let him know that we're ready to finish open session and go into closed session. If anybody, I say if you need to take a 2 to 3 minute break, please do so now.
I'm on it.
Wait, he's here, stop.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we'll take a motion to go in and you will have a 2 to 3 minute break and then we're coming back. All right,
He's got
so
his hand up.
Terry.
I'm going to be switching devices, so you'll need to.
Wait, Terry, I can't hear you.
I'll be switching devices, so you'll need to let me back in.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, okay. All right, Steve, we're ready to go, right? All right, motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person.
So moved.
So moved.
Is there
Second.
a second?
Body moving.
Hearing one. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any extensions? Okay, the motion carries. Dr. Reynolds and Mary, thank you so much for joining us. We shall see you at another time. Thank you. And everybody else, you have 2 to 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Are we gonna get a pop? Are we?
Yeah.
Oh.